Chapter 7:14. If I wanted to harm you, you wouldn't exist in this world anymore. What did he mean by that? Mu Wanru understood a few points. Firstly, this man was very powerful and could easily crush her to death. Second, this man had her life in his hands, which was enough to kill her. Third, at least for now, this man was not her enemy. As for whether he was her friend or not, that was another story. Mu Wanru's uneasy heart calmed down a little. She sat down on the sofa and carefully observed the man's every move. 15 minutes had passed by the time the man finished his cup of tea, but he was not in a hurry to speak. She did not know if he was deliberately whetting her appetite, but he poured himself another cup of tea and calmly savored it. He drank 3 cups of tea in a row, yet he did not say a word to break the silence. Mu Wanru felt like she was sitting on pins and needles in this suffocating silence. Seeing that he was about to pour another cup of tea after finishing the 3rd cup, she could not help but ask carefully, young people really can't keep their cool. It's only been 3 cups of tea, yet you're already so impatient. The middle-aged man snorted, dissatisfied with her impatience. Are you the one who sent me the email? Mu Wanru changed her tone and used honorifics. She was in awe of this middle-aged man. The man smiled with squinted eyes and lightly reminded her, according to seniority, you should call me 4th uncle. 4th uncle? Mu Wanru's eyes widened in confusion. 4th uncle? Isn't that Mu Lianjue? Mu Xing had 3 wives. According to the ranking, Mu Lianqing was the 2nd, while the 4th was Mu Lianjue, the son of his 3rd wife. However, Grandpa Mu had always paid attention to the distinction between the legitimate wife and the concubine. Mu Lianjue was a concubine's son, so he and his 3rd wife had always lived in the Mu residence in the south of the city. Speaking of this residence, there were a total of 5 residences. The main residence was located in the most prominent location in the center of the capital. There were 4 other residences in the east, south, west, and north of the city for the illegitimate sons and the collateral relatives. Only the direct descendants had the right to live in the main residence. 4th uncle, could this man be Mu Lianjue? Mu Wanru pondered for a moment before she uttered the name. Mu Lianjue? Impudent. Mu Lianjue's expression changed as he slammed the teacup on the table. With a loud bang, the tea splashed everywhere, startling Mu Wanru. Mu Lianjue's eagle-like eyes pierced her body. His face was overflowing with anger as he reprimanded, "Is my name something you have the right to call? Without manners." She immediately lowered her head in guilt. "I'm sorry. It's my fault for not knowing proper etiquette." This man was indeed Mu Lianjue. She suddenly recalled that she had seen the Mu family's family photo before. In it, she had seen this man's face standing to the left of Mu Sheng. It was just that the photo was taken a few years ago, so the man's face in it was still young. Hence, she did not recall it at first. The anger on his face did not dissipate. Outrageous. "I'm sorry, 4th uncle. This is my first time meeting you in person, and I was impressed by your magnanimity. That's why I lost my composure. Please forgive me." Mu Wanru sincerely apologized, bringing out the good manners she had learned in the Mu family. She heard that Mu Lianjue was a ruthless person. Chapter 7:15. Mu Lianjue sneered. "Do you know why I called you here?" Mu Wanru's heart skipped a beat. It turned out that he was the one who had sent the email. What was his motive? Mu Wanru could not help but be on guard. As if seeing through her thoughts, he mocked her coldly, "You're still young and inexperienced. Don't try to play tricks with me. You don't have to be wary of me either. After all, we have common interests." "What do you mean?" Mu Wanru's face was as white as snow as she lifted her eyes to look at him in confusion. "Can you be more specific?" "Mu Wanru, you've seen the information earlier, right?" He did not intend to beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Mu Wanru's face instantly turned ugly. She bit her lower lip guiltily, not knowing whether to admit it or not. She could only remain silent. "You don't have to hide anything from me. Do you really think that you can hide what you've done from the heavens? Besides, I'm not that old good-for-nothing Mu Sheng. I'm not fooled by you and fooled by you. He's getting on in years. If he's still the Mu Sheng from 20 years ago, your little tricks won't work." His words stung her so much that it was as if ice had covered her face. Her lips trembled as she asked in trepidation, What do you know? You're asking me what I know about you?" As if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world, he slowly lit a cigar, took a puff and exhaled slowly. Then he stood up and walked to the bedside. With his back facing her, he unhurriedly said, "I know that your biological mother is a masseuse. You were abandoned at the entrance of the hospital when you were born. Later you were claimed by a couple. They met with a car accident and passed away, so you were sent to Xingda Private Welfare Institute. Luo Hanjin, you must be unfamiliar with this name, right? Back then, in order to get the status, snacks and pretty clothes you wanted in the Welfare Institute, you didn't hesitate to have an affair with the director. At such a young age, you know how to sell your body in exchange for what you want. Your methods are very dirty. Yun Shirshir was sent to the Welfare Institute because she witnessed you having an affair with the director. You tried to chase her away. You snatched her jade pendant and wanted to sell it. But you didn't expect that before that, the Mu family came to look for Mu Qingqing's lost daughter. You were accidentally accepted into the Mu family. When you were in your 20s, Grandpa Mu did a DNA test report for you. You didn't hesitate to bribe the doctor with a sky-high amount of money to destroy the real report and force him to leave the country. When you found out that Yun Shirshir was Mu Qingqing's real daughter, you and Aaron, and even spared no expense to hire. Every word he uttered was like a poisoned sword stabbing into her body. Mu Wanru's face gradually lost its color. It was as white as a sheet of paper and as white as wax. It was a tragic sight. As he spoke, he suddenly turned around with a sinister smile. His hawk-like sharp eyes focused on her flat stomach as he coldly said, "The child in your stomach right now is that Aaron's flesh and blood, right? You colluded with him to protect your position in the Mu family. I'm right, aren't I?" Chapter 7:16. Mu Wanru's expression changed. She slumped on the sofa as if she had lost her soul. She stared at him in disbelief. Everything he said was the truth, so she had to believe it. Where did he get this information from, though? Her hands and feet were clean, so how did he find out? Could it be that someone had betrayed her? Was it the doctor? Mu Wanru frowned. After thinking about it, she felt that everyone around her was very suspicious. No one betrayed you. Seeing through her thoughts, he said lightly, "I've got a rough idea of what you're capable of. Unlike you, I never do things that I'm not sure of. Do you think I'm short-sighted and simple-minded like you?" "Impossible? What's impossible?" He laughed. "You're saying that it's impossible for me to know all this." Mu Wanru was speechless and clenched her fists tightly. She did not leave any traces, so how did he know? Mu Wanru, you're too naive. Do you really think that the Muse are as simple as you think?" He laughed mockingly. "I'm old and muddle-headed. Even my eyes can't see clearly. It's inevitable for me to be muddle-headed at my age. Do you really think that you didn't give yourself away with all these things? These reports. I've clearly destroyed them. Where did they come from?" Mu Wanru raised the stack of reports in her hands with bloodshot eyes. "These aren't the ones you destroyed," he said. Mu Wanru was startled and did not understand his words. Where did these reports come from then? His next words, however, shocked her to her core. "Mu Wanru, you don't know, right? He's done 2 DNA tests for you." "What?" Mu Wanru almost screamed as she glared at him. "Grandpa did 2 DNA tests for me? Why didn't I know?" Mu Lianjue snorted in disdain, calling him Grandpa so affectionately. "Don't forget that you're an imposter, Mu Wanru." Mu Wanru was at a loss for words. She was choked by him. But now, regardless of whether she was an imposter or not, she just wanted to clarify one thing. Did he really do 2 paternity tests for me? Mu Lianjue took a puff of the cigar and slowly exhaled. The thick smoke wantonly flew toward Mu Wanru's anxious face. Cough. The pungent smell of the cigar caused her to cough uncontrollably. Mu Lianjue's next words were out of the blue. "I did it the first time not long after you returned to the Mu family. At that time you had a fever. When you went to the hospital, I took your blood and sent the blood sample for testing." "Impossible." Mu Wanru held back her coughing and frowned. "If I really did it, Grandpa would have found out that I'm an imposter and chased me out of the Mu family long ago. You're clearly fooling me." "Fooling you?" Mu Lianjue sneered. "Mu Wanru, you're really interesting. I thought you were smart, but I didn't expect you to be so stupid. Then answer me, since Grandpa did a DNA test for me once, why did he do it again when I was 18? He stared at her anxious face. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the wrinkled report in her hand and curled up his lips. "Where do you think that stack of reports in your hand came from?" Chapter 7:17. Yes. Mu Wanru stared straight at him. Her eyes were filled with surprise, horror, astonishment, and finally, fear that seeped from her bones. It was as if she was on the verge of bursting out. "Chem?" Mu Lianjue looked at her trembling lips, unable to utter a complete sentence for a long time. He could not help but find it funny. She was frightened just like that? This lass's skills were still very shallow compared to his. Mu Wanru looked at his cold face and asked in surprise, "You did it?" He slowly exhaled the smoke and confessed, "I did the same thing as you." The meaning of his words could not be more obvious. Back then, the paternity test report that Mu Xing gave Mu Wanru was done in the Mu Group's private hospital. That hospital was under his control, so it was not troublesome for him to get his hands on the real report. It was just that his methods were more ruthless than Mu Wanru's. Mu Wanru had bribed that doctor and, in the end, paid him a sky-high sum of money, signed a non-disclosure agreement and went overseas. Mu Lianjue, on the other hand, controlled that doctor to forge a fake paternity test report. In the end, he killed the doctor and destroyed the evidence. Moreover, it was done very cleanly. Hence, even Mu Yaja had yet to find out the truth about this matter. He only knew that Mu Wanru's DNA test report was fake, but he could not find a witness. And nonsense. The person was already dead and his body had turned to ashes. How could he find him? After that, the doctor that Mu Wanru bribed finally flew overseas to America. He was worried that the doctor's mouth would not be reliable. He knew that Mu Yaja's methods. He would definitely find out that it was him. This nephew of his was even more ruthless than him. So what if Mu Wanru bribed the doctor? When the time came, Mu Yaja would have plenty of ways to get the doctor to testify. Hence, he sent people to chase the doctor to America to silence him. In the end, the doctor's body was thrown into the sea without leaving any traces behind. A living person could be forced to confess, but a dead person couldn't possibly speak. Mu Wanru was deeply intimidated by the viciousness in his eyes. Her breathing suddenly quickened and she found it hard to calm down. She knew in her heart that this man was a sinister and vicious character. When she was 9 years old, she had just returned to the Mu family. Even the rest of the Mu family did not know about it. He had her real report, which meant that he had already figured out her identity before this. At the very least, it showed that this man's sensitivity and shrewdness were extremely terrifying. Mu Wanru's fear of him was getting stronger and stronger. This man, it was too terrifying. Mu Wanru clenched the documents in her hands tightly. That meant that all the documents were in her hands. It seemed that this man had already expected this. Perhaps he had some ulterior motive and wanted to use this opportunity to threaten her into becoming his slave. Based on this information, she looked at the information in her hand carefully. The doctor's signature was real. It seemed that this was the original. This man, is he also old and muddle-headed? How could such important information fall into her hands? Amidst Mu Wanru's excessive fear, an extreme thought popped up in her mind. Now that the information was in her hands, if she did not destroy it now, when would she? Should she wait for this man to threaten her? No. Chapter 7:18. Mu Lianjue stood in front of the window with a calm face from start to finish. He was unmoved by her series of crazy actions, as if her actions had nothing to do with him. He just watched her burn the original copy of the document. The fire quickly engulfed the paper that was filled with densely packed data. In the end, it completely turned into ashes. She swung her hand and let the ball of fire fall to the ground. The fierce fire burned the expensive carpet in the living room. She looked at the important evidence of her crime with a ferocious expression until the fire went out. Looking at the ashes on the ground, she then raised the corner of her lips and smiled proudly, revealing her white teeth. Ah! Ha ha ha! Mu Wanru raised her head and looked at him smugly. Gritting her teeth, she said, "With just this? You want to threaten me with just this? Let's see how you're going to threaten me now." Mu Lianjue, on the other hand, was unperturbed. He just looked calmly at Mu Wanru, who seemed to have gone mad. A trace of pity and contempt surfaced in his eyes, as if he found her pitiful. Mu Wanru's laughter came to an abrupt halt when she saw his calm expression. Her expression turned cold all of a sudden. What's wrong? Why did he look so calm? She had already burned the evidence. Was he not anxious at all? Could it be that he still had something on her? Do you think you can sit back and relax after burning this information? He gently placed the cigar in the ashtray and lazily raised his eyes with a hint of a smile. It was as if he was mocking her ignorance. What do you mean? Mu Wanru suddenly felt that this man was too unfathomable. After thinking about it carefully, she felt that her earlier actions were too impulsive and naive. From the moment she entered the room, the document had been placed in the most conspicuous position. She had seen it at a glance. What did this mean? Did this mean that this document was not important to him? Or was this not the original document at all and was a fake? There's no need to doubt it. This document is real, and this is the only original copy. As if he could read her mind, he said coldly, "Do you think that you can destroy all the evidence by burning the original?" Mu Wanru was suddenly shocked and asked suspiciously, "You kept my blood sample? You're not too stupid." He snorted contemptuously. "So what if I don't have your blood sample? You can easily destroy the evidence of your crimes, but do you know that the greatest evidence of your crimes is the blood flowing in your body? Can you replace your blood with the real one?" Mu Wanru's face instantly turned pale. Yes, the blood in her body was irrefutable evidence of her crime. How could she? She was too impulsive. She was too full of herself. Mu Lianjue pressed the doorbell and soon someone hurried into the room to replace the burnt carpet. Mu Wanru stood rooted to the ground. It was not until he sat back on the sofa that he calmly reminded her, "Mu Wanru, I advise you not to struggle anymore. You're on my side now. That's the only way to protect yourself." "What's your motive?" Mu Wanru, who was sitting opposite him, tried her best to calm her frightened emotions as she asked calmly. "I thought you were very clear about my motive." Chapter 719. He sneered, his voice as cold as ice. "This position belongs to me in the first place. I'm just taking back what's rightfully mine." "Mu Yaja won't give it to you." Mu Wanru pursed her lips. "He's the strongest candidate to be the head of the Mu family now." He curled his lips and said cruelly, "That's why I want to get rid of him." "Get rid of him?" Mu Wanru's heart skipped a beat before she shouted, "No. Jem, you can't get rid of him." Mu Wanru's face turned red in agitation. He mocked, "Why? Are you still daydreaming about being the young mistress of the Mu family?" His sarcasm was like a bloody sword, stabbing into her heart. After a pause, he asked sarcastically, "Or do you still love this man?" "You?" Mu Wanru bit her lip. Yes, she still loved this man in her heart. She loved and hated him at the same time. She admitted that she loved this man more than Yun Shirshir and not less than Yun Shirshir. She used to love him so much that she was crazy about him. However, this man did not love her. "Don't be silly. He won't marry you," he mocked coldly. Mu Wanru frowned but did not say a word. He leaned back slightly and said in a low voice, "This nephew of mine is just like his father. He values relationships and righteousness. Once he's set his mind on someone, he'll be stubborn to the end. You're not in his heart, there's only that last Yun Shirshir in it. Don't fantasize about being the young mistress of the Mu family. It's nothing more than a pipe dream. He'll realize how good I am sooner or later. My love for him is no less than that B*TCHs. Mu Wanru flew into a rage out of humiliation. "Realize how good you are?" He sneered. "How naive. Do you think he doesn't know about your little tricks? That's where you're stupid. Playing tricks under his nose, do you really think my nephew is an ordinary person? But even if he knows, what can he do to me?" Mu Wanru said stubbornly. So what if Mu Yaja knew what she had done? With Mu Xing standing in front of her, what else could he do to her? Mu Lianjue replied, "Sure enough, she's fearless just because Mu Xing dotes on her. But why don't you think about how many more days those old bones have left to live?" Mu Wanru was stunned. He was right. Her current status in the Mu family was entirely due to Mu Xing's protection, but if he was no longer around one day, she would be all alone in the huge Mu family. Seeing her wavering, he slowly added the last bit of fuel to the fire. "Once Mu Xing dies, your time of death will soon come. This nephew of mine won't let you live." Mu Wanru's eyes turned cold. She was badly frightened. "You're lying. He won't kill me." Mu Yaja was not him. His methods would not be so cruel. Mu Lianjue nodded in agreement and replied casually, "That's right. But he can make you wish you were dead." "Fourth uncle, what do you mean by that?" He snorted. "You're still defending him even now. Why don't you think about who caused you to end up like this?" "What do you mean? What did he mean by that?" This old thing only knew how to keep her in suspense. Chapter 720. "I thought that I was infertile, so I didn't take any precautions." Mu Wanru bit her lower lip with a red face. "There's no such thing as congenital infertility." Mu Lianjue smirked. "That's just a trap set by Mu Yaja." Mu Wanru's face froze as if she had been struck by lightning. Her eyebrows twitched violently. "You're saying that infertility report from 6 years ago was forged by Mu Yaja? You don't know about it, do you?" It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck. She stared at him, flabbergasted. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. "Impossible? You're nothing more than a pawn of his? What infertility? It's all fake. It's a pity that you're full of feelings for him, yet you're being played by him from start to end. Mu Wanru, you're really pitiful." Mu Wanru clenched her fists tightly. Every word he uttered was destroying her psychological defenses. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were cold and boundless. Fourth uncle, it seems that I'm still of use to you. That's right. Is it because of Mu Sheng's love for me? Yes. He slowly stood up. That old man's health may be deteriorating, but he's still in control of the Mu family. You're the only one in the family who can get close to him. If I help you, what will I get in return? Mu Lianjue replied, I'll give you a lifetime's worth of wealth and splendor. That's not enough. Mu Wanru smirked. Before I help you, I want you to get rid of two people for me. Oh. Yin Shishir and Yin Tianyu. Mu Wanru spat through gritted teeth. In the special intensive care unit. Yin Shishir slowly opened her eyes. The moment she opened her eyes, she felt a stinging pain in her left eye. In front of her eyes, there was blood red. Her heart skipped a beat. Closing her eyes tightly, she slowly sat up on the bed and scanned the room with her half-opened right eye. To her surprise, she saw Xiao Yichen lying on the bed, clutching her hand tightly. He seemed to be asleep. He fell asleep. On the other hand, Mu Yaja was lying on the right side of the bed. His warm big palm was wrapped tightly around her hand, and he was resting his head on his sturdy arm. His eyelids were drooping and he seemed to have fallen asleep as well. His jet-black hair covered his eyelids, and a few strands of hair fell in between his slightly furrowed brows, making his face look as white as snow. The father and son, one on the left and one on the right, each held one of her hands. The warmth of their palms traveled along her fingertips to her heart, as if dispelling the coldness in the ward in an instant. Yun Shishir originally had a splitting headache, but when she opened her eyes and saw the father and son guarding by the bed, even the most intense pain subsided a little. Her lips could not help but curve into a warm smile. The door to the ward was suddenly pushed open slightly. Yun Shishir was startled to see Yu walking in with two heavy kettles and a shopping bag full of bread and snacks in his mouth. Looking up, he saw Yun Shishir sitting up on the bed. Yu raised his eyebrows and widened his eyes in relief. He put down the things and was about to speak when Yun Shishir mouthed the word hush. Shu. Seeing her cautious look, Yun Tianyu's hands became lighter. He tiptoed to the bedside and whispered, Mommy, you're awake. Chapter 721. I just woke up. You've been unconscious for a day and a night. It's good that you're awake. A day and a night. Had she been unconscious for that long? The doctor said that Mommy has a slight concussion, so... Yu carefully moved a small stool to her right. He then took out an apple and started peeling it bit by bit with a knife. Yun Shishir asked curiously, Why am I in the hospital? Stupid Mommy, you're injured. Of course you have to be sent to the hospital. Yu looked helpless. Besides, your injury is a little serious. You need to recuperate. He deliberately sat on Yun Shishir's right side because her left eardrum was perforated. He was afraid that she could not hear him clearly if he spoke from her left side. Just as Yun Shishir was done with the hospitalization procedures, Mu Yaja brought him and Xiao Yichen over. Initially, the boy thought that she had suffered a serious injury and was on tenterhooks. He wished that he could grow a pair of wings and fly to Yun Shishir's side. However, when he arrived at the hospital, he learned from the doctor that her eardrum was damaged due to an external force during filming. She would recover after a few days of rest. Still feeling uneasy, he repeatedly inquired about her condition. The doctor assured him that there would not be any sequelae. Only then did he feel at ease. Of course, Mu Yaja did not tell him the truth. Otherwise, who knew what kind of bloodshed this little devil would stir up? Mu Yaja sensitively realized that this little Yu, who looked innocent and harmless on the surface, had a little devil sealed in his heart. Once his bottom line was crossed, the devil in him would awaken. Yun Shishir, on the other hand, was his bottom line in his reverse scale. He had no doubt that if Yun Tianyu knew the truth, not only would he destroy the opera troupe of the Green Apple in a fit of rage, he would also turn Huanyu upside down. Still, he knew that this matter could not be kept under wraps for long. He only hoped that he would personally handle this matter. Xiao Yichen was even more worried than Yun Shishir. When he entered the ward, Yun Shishir was still in a coma. When he saw her swollen face, tears streamed down his face. He hugged Yun Shishir's arm and cried his heart out. Yun Tianyu, who was standing at the side, calmly observed Yun Shishir's condition. His expression was heavy, and his eyes flashed with suspicion. Just as Mu Yaja thought that he had discovered something fishy, Yun Tianyu stepped forward and pushed Xiao Yichen away. He stood protectively in front of Yun Shishir and said indignantly, You're not allowed to take advantage of my mommy, humph. But she's still my mommy. Xiao Yichen reminded him indignantly. Yun Tianyu coldly snorted. The two lads even got into a fight over this matter, causing Mu Yaja to be in a terrible fix. In the end he could not take it anymore and gave each of them a flick. Your mommy is still lying on the bed. If you want to fight, do it outside. Come in after you're done fighting. Seeing that Mu Yaja was angry, the two lads calmed down. Only then did the two little fellows settle down. They decided not to cause any more trouble and shook hands. The two lads secretly made up their minds. At least for their mommy's sake, they would temporarily stop fighting and get along amicably. The father-son trio took turns guarding her bed for the whole night. Yun Shirshir stared at Yun Tianyo's tender, snow-white face and asked with narrowed eyes, "Yu, did you bully Big Brother?" "Mommy, I'm innocent." "Yu doesn't bully children," Yun Tianyu said softly, but his hands did not stop moving. "Really?" Chapter 722. As he spoke, he skillfully peeled off the apple skin layer by layer with a small knife. He then cut the flesh into small pieces, picked up a piece with a fork and brought it to her mouth. "Here, Mommy." Oh. Yun Shirshir opened her mouth and bit into the apple. The sweet juice overflowed and lingered in her mouth. "So sweet." "Yes. Of course it's sweet. You picked these personally." Yun Tianyu pursed his lips into a smile, looking very pleased with himself. "You're so smart." Yun Shirshir could not help chuckling. "Mommy, are you hungry? You bought you a lot of food. There's your favorite custard buns, fragrant taro cream cake, mung bean cake." You placed the food on the table one by one like a good wife and loving mother. No one knew his mother better than him. He knew that she was so hungry that her eyes were turning green, yet he still chose her favorite flavor for each food. Yun Shirshir was touched by her precious son's actions. She felt that, at this moment, he was emitting a holy light. Yun Tianyu looked up and saw Yun Shirshir's pious, praying gaze. "Mommy, why are you looking at me as if I'm the Virgin Mary?" Yu quietly complained. Mommy loves you so much. Mommy, you clearly love custard buns and fragrant taro cream cake." Yu quietly complained again. Life is hard, so don't expose me. Don't expose Mommy." Yu's eyes drooped aggrievedly. Yu is so sad. Mommy loves custard buns more than Yu. Yun Shirshir's lips twitched violently. What was the level of jealousy? It meant that one could be jealous of anything, even food. It was the highest level. You get jealous so easily. Mommy, you're number one in Yu's heart." Yu snorted as a gentle and doting smile appeared on her face. He then opened the wrapper of the custard buns, cut the bread into delicate pieces with a knife, and fed them into Yun Shirshir's mouth. Yun Shirshir was so touched that her heart almost melted. This was probably the pinnacle of happiness. Yun Shirshir suddenly had a feeling and said longingly, "Yu, don't get married in the future. Take care of Mommy for the rest of your life." Yun Tianyu gently lowered his gaze as his lips curled into a doting smile. "Okay." Yun Shirshir chuckled and immediately said, "Mommy was just joking. You can't take it seriously." "Yu is serious." Yun Tianyu's hands did not stop moving as he inserted the straw into the milk bottle. He looked up at her tenderly. "You will take care of Mommy for the rest of my life." Yun Shirshir was stunned and could not react in time. She had always known how dependent Yu was on her, but she did not expect him to rely on her so much. "Can't I?" Yu saw the shock on her face and chuckled. "Mommy, you should feel blessed to have such a handsome son to take care of you for the rest of your life. But Yu will have a girl he likes in the future." Yun Shirshir decided to enlighten him. "There won't be." Yun Tianyu's little hand gently fiddled with the straw as he raised a brow. "I've said it before, no one can replace Mommy in Yu's heart." Yun Shirshir frowned and then pursed her lips. The child was still young, she was the person he relied on the most. That might not be the case when he grew up. He was still a child, he was still immature. Chapter 723. "Little guy, why does Mommy love you so much? Let Mommy give you a good massage." Yun Shirshir could not resist pulling her hand out of Muyaja's palm and pinched the boy's tender cheeks. She did not use much strength, but neither was she gentle. Even so, Yu did not show any signs of impatience on his face. Instead, he said in a pampering voice, "Mommy, you're so lively, you don't look like you're injured at all. You're a patient." "Mommy isn't a patient to begin with." "Mommy, be gentle, be gentle." While the mother and son were fooling around, Muyaja's shoulder shook slightly. Even in his sleep, he felt his palm become empty and immediately woke up uneasily. Muyaja raised his head and opened his cold eyes. His blurry vision gradually became clear. In his line of sight, Yun Shirshir was holding Yun Tianyu in her arms and pinching his face wantonly. Yu did not struggle or resist. He nestled in her arms contentedly and let her pinch him as she pleased. From time to time he would let out a crisp and tender laughter. There was a gentle smile on her small face that was as white as porcelain. Only then did Muyaja's tense heart relax slightly. Just now he had a dream. In his dream he was standing on a wooden bridge with her. Under the bridge there was a turbulent river. He held her hand tightly and walked carefully on the wooden bridge. Suddenly her hand loosened and they fell from the bridge. He woke up with a start. It was only when he saw the mother and son looking at each other at the head of the bed that he realized that it was just a nightmare. It was a false alarm. Xiao was also awakened by the noise. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and raised his head, only to see Yun Tianyu nestled in Yun Shishir's arms and playing around. His face was slightly red and his handsome brows were slightly furrowed. "Mommy," he called out in a crisp voice. Yun Shishir looked up and saw that he was awake. Her eyes curved gently as she said gently, "Xiao, you're awake." Yes. Xiao shyly pursed his lips. Realizing that he had fallen asleep earlier, he said guiltily, "I've been accompanying Mommy all this while. I'm a little tired, so I accidentally fell asleep." Yun Shishir was taken aback. She was slightly touched, but at the same time, her heart ached for him. "You must be tired. Do you want to sleep for a while more?" "No. I want to accompany Mommy." "Mommy, does your face still hurt?" Xiao eyes. He blinked his big watery eyes as he carefully examined the swollen half of her face. "It's a little, but it's still swollen." "It must be very painful." Yu pouted and grumbled, "Speaking of which, stupid Mommy, what's wrong with you? Why is your face swollen like this from filming?" After a pause, his eyes slowly narrowed as he asked suspiciously, "Don't tell me that someone in the production team bullied Mommy?" Yun Shishir's smile froze. Xiao, who was beside her, also expressed his doubts. "I think it's suspicious too. Daddy said that Mommy got hurt during filming, but I don't believe him. There's an obvious handprint on Mommy's face. It seems like she was slapped." Yes. I saw it. It's a bloody handprint. Mommy, did someone in the production team bully you?" The two little lads approached her suspiciously. Their palm-sized handsome faces were close to her, and their big, sparkling eyes were full of suspicion. Yun Shishir's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 724. Did these two have to be so perceptive? "Mommy, who bullied you? Tell us, I'll definitely bully them back." Me too. With us around, who dares to lay a finger on you?" The two brothers stood by the bed with their arms around each other's shoulders. At this moment, they were actually united against a common enemy and looked as if they were going to take revenge for her. At this moment, the two brothers were of one mind. In the past, they would be fighting fiercely for her attention, but now they were like close comrades in arms, echoing each other. Yun Shishir and Muyaja exchanged glances and could not help laughing at their serious looks. "Stop fooling around." "We're not fooling around." Yes, we're not fooling around," Xiao quickly echoed. Yun Tianyu clenched his fists tightly. Indignation surfaced in his eyes as he said indignantly, "Mommy was bullied, so we're going to take revenge for her." Xiao actions were in sync with his. Clenching his fists, he angrily echoed, "Yes. Take revenge for Mommy. Let them know the consequences of bullying my Mommy." "Yes. What consequences?" Yu angrily said, "The heavens won't tolerate bullying my Mommy." "Yes. The heavens won't tolerate it." Yun Tianyu turned his gaze to Xiao face with displeasure and warned, "Idiot, don't imitate me." "I didn't imitate you. I heard you imitate me just now. You're just like a parrot. You only know how to imitate people." "You're the parrot. You're the parrot. You're the parrot. 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 Idiot. Idiot. Super big idiot. Reflect. Reflect your reflection. Reflect. The two little lads disagreed and started fighting among themselves again. Their faces flushed red as they bared their fangs and brandished their claws at each other in a heated argument. Muyaja rubbed his forehead, feeling a headache coming on. Why couldn't these two guys get along peacefully? Just a moment ago, they were clearly brothers of one mind and united against a common enemy. Now they were fighting among themselves. He immediately walked forward, one in each hand, and hugged the two soft and adorable little munchkins in his arms. In a low voice he said, "Don't make noise." Yun Tianyu did not buy it though. Crossing his arms across his chest, he snorted and turned his face away to ignore him. Xiao, on the other hand, felt extremely aggrieved. His eyes drooped and he looked like he was about to cry. "Daddy is fierce. I don't want Daddy. I want Mommy." Xiao Yichen opened his arms to Yun Shirshir, asking for a hug. Yun Shirshir's heart immediately softened. She reached out to take him and held him in her arms. When Yu saw this, she was a little jealous. She immediately struggled to get down from Mu Yaja's body and threw herself into Yun Shirshir's arms. Mommy's embrace was his territory, and he had to defend it unconditionally. Mu Yaja did not intend to give him the chance to do so, though. He tightened his grip on the boy's shoulders and pulled him into his embrace. He rubbed his handsome face against the boy's rosy cheeks. You be good. Daddy will carry you. I don't want you to carry me. Mu Yaja's handsome eyes showed a hint of hurt and grievance. Why don't you want Daddy to carry you? He was rarely this close to Xiao Yichen, but this little guy was different from Xiao Yichen. She was proud and arrogant, soft and adorable. She was clearly teasing him. Chapter 725. Mu Yaja caught Yuyu's naughty hand and smiled mischievously. He glanced at Yuyu's blushing face. He was obviously embarrassed. However, even though he said no, he did not struggle or resist too intensely. Feeling embarrassed and annoyed, the boy glared at him aggrievedly. He turned his face away from him and pursed his pink lips into an arrogant line. He seemed to be resisting silently. This little bun was really stubborn. Just whose genes did he inherit this tsundere personality from? Mu Yaja grabbed his chin and turned his face, forcing him to look at him. Yuyu struggled for a while, trying to get rid of Mu Yaja's restraint. But how could he resist the strength in his hands? Seeing that he could not break free, he simply gave up. He only glared at him with a warning look. The threat in his eyes was obvious. Mu Yaja smiled. This was the first time he was looking at his son's face up close. His black hair was very smooth. Especially under the light, it looked even softer and brighter. He had a palm-sized, snow-white face, rosy cheeks, and a sharp nose. He had a pair of large, watery eyes, long and curved eyelashes, thick and soft, long and curly, and slightly upturned like two black feathers. His black pupils were as pure and clear as a lake. They were ethereal and charming. They were like dazzling diamonds without any impurities. They were breathtaking. He had inherited Yun Shirshir's beautiful eyes and his deep facial features. He was practically the embodiment of their strengths. There was no doubt that not long after, this little guy would grow into a handsome and exquisite young man. Yuyu's face was burning under his stare. He glared back at him unhappily. It was as if he was fighting back. The father and son looked at each other in silence. Yun Shirshir was amused by Yuyu's nervous expression. He laughed and said, "Yuyu, what's with that expression?" Yuyu's face turned even redder. He said awkwardly, "He keeps staring at me." "That's because Daddy likes you, right?" Yun Shirshir coaxed him. "I don't want him to like me." Yuyu said stubbornly and pouted. Mu Yaja laughed and asked suddenly, "Yuyu, Daddy wants to play a game with you, okay?" "What game?" "Xiao Yichen's favorite game." "What? I'm not playing." Before he could finish his sentence, Mu Yaja held his body and threw him into the air. Wah! Yuyu let out a scream. His body was thrown into the air and fell straight down. Mu Yaja hugged him tightly. Before he could protest, Mu Yaja threw him into the air again. Yuyu's expression changed. He turned pale with fright and couldn't help but scream, "Wah! So high, so high." He fell again in an instant. It was as if his heart was about to stop beating. He felt as if his heart was in his throat. Yuyu fell from the air and was caught by Mu Yaja. He put his hands under the little boy's armpits and raised him high. Yuyu was so scared that his face turned pale. "Put me down. Put me down." He struggled, his two adorable short legs kicking wildly. Mu Yaja's hand trembled, eliciting another shriek from the boy. "Oh no, I'm going to fall." Chapter 726. After 2 rounds, Yuyu's back was drenched in cold sweat. He was so scared that his mouth was agape. "Stop playing. It's not fun." "What kind of lousy game is this? It's not fun at all." Yuyu glared at Mu Yaja angrily. Afraid that he would throw him into the air again, his pair of small hands clutched his collar tightly as he bit his lower lip. Mu Yaja could not help raising an eyebrow when he saw the boy's pale face. This was probably the difference between the two children. Xiao Yichen especially liked this kind of thrilling game, but Yuyu was terrified. He was careful not to throw him too high for fear that his little heart would not be able to take it. In the end, he still scared the little devil out of his wits. "Be good and call me Daddy." Yuyu still refused to admit his mistake. He squinted his eyes and sized him up indignantly. I won't call. Stupid, stupid." Before he could finish his words, Mu Yaja flicked his wrist again and threw him into the air. Yuyu was so scared that he covered his eyes with his hands. Wah. His heart trembled in fear. Call me daddy. I won't. Wah wah. Seeing how stubborn he was, Muyaja wanted to teach his proud son a lesson. Alas, after 2 rounds, Yun Tianyu could no longer put up a brave front. With a look of defeat, he hugged his father's neck tightly with both hands and cried, "Daddy!" Muyaja was stunned. He turned to look at the boy, only to see the latter's eyes tightly shut as he hugged his neck tightly. His face was buried in his chest, and his small and soft body was curled up into a ball as he trembled in fear. "Daddy, don't play anymore. I'm scared." Yuyu's tone softened. His eyes were filled with tears of grievance as he pouted. This was clearly a compromise to him. Muyaja's gaze softened, and a certain part of his heart softened. His large palm gently covered his head and rubbed it. "Be good, let's not play anymore." Yuyu's eyes narrowed. She was really scared to tears. "This game isn't fun at all. It's so scary." As she spoke, she closed her eyes. Bean-sized tears fell from the corners of her eyes, and she began to cry with grievance. Muyaja was at a loss of what to do as he watched little Munchkin sob softly in his arms. Tears rolled down his cheeks like silver beans. It dripped on the back of his hand. Muyaja furrowed his brows in confusion. Did he make this little bun cry? Faced with the child's tears, he could not help but feel a little helpless. He hurriedly tried to coax the child. Don't cry, don't cry. Daddy, hug me." As Yuyu cried, she pushed his handsome face to the side in disdain. She continued to cry her heart out. Muyaja really did not know what to do with her. When a child cried, it was really a headache. What was even more troublesome was that Yuyu's character was clearly not one to be swayed by force or persuasion. He could only hug Yuyu in his arms and coax her gently. Yun Shirshir looked at this pair of jokers and the corners of her lips twitched violently. In the end, when she saw Muyaja coax Yuyu the way he coaxed her, she could not help but laugh out loud. Xiao Yichen lifted his head and saw Yun Shirshir's beautiful and gentle smile. He could not help but laugh as well. Chapter 727. This time, it was Muyaja and Yun Tianyu's turn to be dumbfounded. The father-son pair glared at Yun Shirshir. One looked unhappy while the other looked aggrieved. "What's so funny?" "I think that you two are especially cute," Yun Shirshir said bluntly. Yun Tianyu's aggrieved face was indescribable. He opened his arms to Yun Shirshir and said in a choked voice, "Mommy, hug Yuyu. Daddy isn't gentle at all. Yuyu is scared." His childish voice was laced with sobs. It was clear that he was complaining to Yun Shirshir about Muyaja's roughness. Muyaja's thin lips twitched slightly. This little guy had cultivated to a certain level. When facing him, he would always speak in a stiff tone. However, when facing Yun Shirshir, his tone was so soft that it was about to drip water. This difference in treatment was really unfair. This little lad was biased. Yun Shirshir's heart ached. "Come, mommy will hug you. Don't cry anymore." Hearing her call, Yuyu immediately pushed Muyaja away and flew into her arms. He buried his little face in Yun Shirshir's chest and rubbed his face against it contentedly. Muyaja's face turned ashen when he saw the little guy intimately burying his face in Yun Shirshir's chest. This little rascal was not picky about the place to act coquettishly. Yun Shirshir did not notice Muyaja's displeased expression. She lowered her head and kissed the little guy's forehead. She gently said, "Yuyu, don't cry anymore, okay? Yuyu will listen to mommy." Yuyu's tears turned into laughter. "Good boy." Yun Shirshir coaxed the little lad into giggling with just a few words. When Muyaja saw this scene, the corners of his lips twitched fiercely, but he didn't have any temper left. However, he didn't know why, but when he saw the mother and son's bright smiles, his chest was filled with an inexplicable feeling. Xiao Yichen hugged him gently. Muyaja lowered his head and heard Xiao Yichen ask shyly, "Daddy, do you like little brother?" Upon hearing this, Muyaja subconsciously glanced at Yun Tianyu before lowering his head. His eyes were filled with gentleness as he answered, "Yes, I like it. I like mommy too." As Xiao Yichen spoke, a hint of nervousness and hesitation appeared on his little face. "Daddy, can we keep doing this?" Muyaja raised a brow and hummed in acknowledgement. Clearly, he did not understand the meaning behind his words. Feeling a little bashful, little Yichen lowered his head and fiddled with his tiny fingers. His voice was muffled but full of anticipation. "Daddy, I like it like this. The four of us are so happy together. Can we always be like this? Can we keep doing this? Daddy, mommy, little brother, we can live in the same house and be happy every day." When he saw that Muyaja did not express his opinion immediately, he mistakenly thought that the latter was unwilling to do so. She immediately hugged his arm, raised her head, and begged in a pleading tone. His ability to express himself was not as good as Yun Qinyo's, but Mu Yaja still understood the meaning behind his words. Xiao Yichen wanted their family of 4 to be together forever. Can't we? Xiao Yichen likes mommy and little brother a lot. Daddy, you like mommy and little brother too. Then can we be together forever? We'll never be apart, okay? Okay. Mu Yaja nodded. Chapter 728. Yun Shishir raised her head and looked at the father and son inquisitively. Her attention was focused on Yu just now, so she obviously did not hear the conversation between the father and son. Xiao Yichen pretended to be mysterious and smiled. It's a secret. Ever since the slapping incident on the set that day, Yan Bingqing had been put under house arrest by Mu Yaja. However, she did not seem to realize the seriousness of the matter and was still a little fearless. After all, Yan Bingqing did not believe that Mu Yaja would suppress her because of Yun Shishir. He was just trying to scare her. Besides, so what if everyone accused her of deliberately slapping Yun Shishir? Was there any evidence? So what if it was an NG video taken on the set? When the time came, she could explain that she was too engrossed in her acting that she did not pay attention to her strength and slapped Yun Shishir too hard. Even if Mu Yaja wanted to use public opinion to suppress her, she could completely wash her hands of this matter. With her status and fan base, how could she lose to a newcomer who had just debuted? Yan Bingqing comforted herself. Everything was fine now. After this incident, she would be able to return to normal. She guessed that Yun Shishir might have a close relationship with Mu Yaja. Most of the upper-class rich people had a taste like Yun Shishir. She was pure and refined. Perhaps Mu Yaja was Yun Shishir's sugar daddy. However, Mu Yaja would never do anything to Yun Shishir. After all, Mu Yaja was the crown prince of the richest family in the capital city. Grandpa Mu had already ordered many times that no actress in the entertainment industry could enter the entertainment industry. What did this mean? It meant that no actress in the entertainment industry had the right to enter the Mu family. Mu Yaja was just fooling around with Yun Shishir. Even if Yun Shishir was the reincarnation of a vixen and had the ability to seduce people, so what? The Mu family's threshold was so high. Could she enter the Mu family? Mu Yaja had a fiancé, didn't he? Although she was not his fiancé in name, no one could change her status. If Mu Yaja dared to protect Yun Shishir openly and suppressed her and the news spread to the Mu family, would Grandpa Mu be able to sit still? However, every time Yan Bingqing thought of the day when Mu Yaja looked at her with a murderous look in his eyes, she lost her confidence. She had a nagging feeling that Yun Shishir held a special place in the man's heart. She more or less regretted it. If she had known that Yun Shishir was related to Mu Yaja, she would not have laid a finger on her no matter what. Now, she could only hope that this matter would blow over as soon as possible. Lin Fengtian sent the videotape of that day to Dishing Building. Mu Yaja carefully browsed through the NGs of that scene on set that day. After watching it once, his eyes became deeper and his face was as cold as frost. Especially his thin lips, the line of his lips was cold and stiff. Minyu, who was standing beside him, also frowned. Deliberate. It was too deliberate. The onlooker saw more clearly than the person involved. Yan Bingqing might not know how much strength she had used. However, in the eyes of outsiders, especially those crisp and powerful sounds, it was very frightening. Looking at those shocking scenes, they felt as if their faces had been slapped a few times just by looking at them. It was boiling hot and they felt as if they had experienced it themselves. Chapter 729. To be able to perforate someone's eardrum, this Yan Bingqing was quite capable. Mu Yaja narrowed his eyes, unable to suppress the anger in his heart. Minyu asked, "Boss, what do you say? Do you want to teach her a lesson?" "I have my own plans." Mu Yaja closed his eyes deeply, opened his thin lips slightly, and spat out a few words coldly. "This time, I want her reputation to be ruined." Not long after, Yan Bingqing's house arrest was lifted. When Yan Bingqing returned to the studio, she did not hear any news. Thinking that this matter was over, she could not help but heave a sigh of relief. She knew it. What could a mere Yun Shishir do to her? Could she turn the world upside down? However, a few days later, her manager found out from somewhere that Huanyu Entertainment was holding an internal meeting to prepare a draft overnight. They were determined to ruin Yan Bingqing's reputation. The news came from the inside, so it was naturally reliable. Yan Bingqing's manager Mo Yan was also a ruthless character. The public relations team behind him was very strong. Even when he took over Yan Bingqing, there were many scandals about her. However, under their packaging, Yan Bingqing's popularity soared. Now she had jumped to the top. Mo Yan's hard work was great. It was obvious that Mo Yan was not to be trifled with. Having been in this industry for so many years, he naturally had a wide network of contacts. He even had spies in the higher-ups of Huanyu. When he found out about this, he was very nervous. However, he could only find out so much. He did not know how Huanyu Entertainment was going to deal with her. Hence, he quickly found Yan Bingqing and asked her to go to the hospital to apologize sincerely to Yun Shirshir. When Yan Bingqing heard this, it was as if she had heard the biggest joke in the world. She sneered, "Are you kidding me? Is there something wrong with your brain? You want me to apologize to a newbie who can't hear the rumors? I won't do it." Mo Yan was both angry and anxious. He coaxed, "Bingqing, why are you still throwing a tantrum at this point? You've offended Mu Yaja. It's not like you don't know what that man is capable of. It was better to take a step back before things got out of hand and not blow things up. Moreover, you're the one who made a mistake in this matter. You've caused me such a big mess. I've been running around a lot these past few days because of this matter." Yan Bingqing pondered for a moment. Her expression was a little displeased as she sneered, "You're obviously blaming me for this? Bingqing, I didn't mean that. Don't talk nonsense. That's exactly what you meant." Yan Bingqing slammed the table angrily. She stood up and complained, "Mo Yan, we've been old partners for so many years. I've always obeyed whatever you asked me to do. But you're asking me to apologize to a newbie. If word gets out, where will I put my face? It's not a matter of face now. You've offended Mu Yaja's people. You're filming a scene, but you've punched her eardrums so hard that she's lying in the hospital. You didn't even say anything. How do you expect me to clean up the mess for you? Pierced eardrum? How can it be so serious?" Yan Bingqing narrowed her eyes suspiciously. She obviously did not believe it. Mo Yan rebuked, "Don't you know how much strength you have?" Chapter 730. Her nonchalant tone showed that she did not have any self-awareness at all. He was going to die from anger. This Yan Bingqing was now very popular in the entertainment industry, and her personality was getting more and more arrogant. He understood her character and knew that she would get into trouble sooner or later. However, he did not expect her to offend the Mu family's crown prince. Wasn't she just asking for trouble? Mo Yan was so angry that he could hardly breathe. Sweating profusely, he paced back and forth anxiously. Finally, he let out a long sigh and sat down in front of Yan Bingqing. He said earnestly, "Bingqing, don't be too stubborn. If it were someone else, I could still help you deal with it. But this Mu Yaja, if he gives the order to ban you, even the best public relations team can't protect you." Yan Bingqing was skeptical. "Is he that powerful? What do you think?" Mo Yan widened his eyes. "That's the crown prince of Dishing Financial Group. He's a big shot with great power and influence. If he says he wants to ban you, who would dare to say no? Why would he ban me? Yun Shirshir is a newbie in Huanyu, and I'm Huanyu's big sister. Could it be that Huanyu wants to ban me for an unknown newcomer? I'm Huanyu's biggest cash cow now. Why would they ban me?" Yan Bingqing lost control and questioned him repeatedly. Mo Yan was silent. "Tell me, why are there so many whys in this industry?" Mo Yan sneered. "Yan Bingqing, you've been in the entertainment industry for so many years. Don't you understand? There are so many people who are prettier, better looking, and more capable than you. Why are you the only one who's famous?" "What? There's no why. There's only based on what?" Mo Yan stood up, his emotions a little out of control. "Because you met me when you debuted. Because you have Yang Shouqing backing you up. Don't you understand? This industry doesn't look at what you're capable of, but how strong your backing is. In terms of background and backing, you've lost. Now, going to the hospital to apologize to Yun Shirshir is the only way to protect yourself. Do you understand?" Yan Bingqing was stunned. "I've spent so many resources on you. I've used so many methods to package you. You have so many dark histories. Which one of them wasn't cleared by me? It wasn't easy for you to become famous. Do you know how difficult it was? Are you proud of yourself? But other than causing trouble for me all the time, you also offend people everywhere. Forget about the other small fries, you even dared to offend Mu Yaja's people. Yan Bingqing, can you work harder for me? I packaged you to make money, not to lose money. I haven't recovered my capital from you yet." Yan Bingqing was startled and looked at him with a pale face. Mo Yan ignored the embarrassment on her face and said coldly, "It's fine if you maintain your image in front of the public, but why are you acting like a big shot in front of me? Do you really think you're a princess? In my eyes, you're just a product. I've invested in you, so you have to let me see returns. If there's no return, why would I support you? Water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. Yan Bingqing, if you force me into a corner, don't blame me for not taking our old friendship into account. Go ahead and act. You might as well court your own death. You make it sound nice. Chapter 731. There was a moment of silence in the room as the two of them looked at each other in silence. After a while, Mo Yen said helplessly, "Take it that I'm begging you. Don't let our previous efforts go to waste because of this matter." Yen Bingqing took a deep breath and said indifferently, "All right. If you want me to apologize, I'll go and apologize now." That's more like it. When Mo Yen and Yen Bingqing rushed to the door of the ward and saw a group of bodyguards standing there, Yen Bingqing's heart was still pounding. "Let's go in." Mo Yen patted her on the shoulder. Yen Bingqing pursed her lips and went forward to knock on the door. "Who is it?" "Just come in." Yun Shishir's voice came from inside. Yen Bingqing pushed the door open. However, the first thing she saw was Mu Yaja sitting at the head of the bed, while Yun Shishir was nestled in his arms comfortably and scrolling through Weibo on her phone. The weather was hot. Mu Yaja had specially ordered someone to buy iced watermelon. After cutting it into pieces, he held a fruit plate in his left hand and a fork in his right hand and carefully fed her piece by piece. That careful look and every movement of his was extremely protective. He served her well regardless of the big or small matters. He looked just like a henpecked husband. As for Yun Shishir, she was lying in his arms and scrolling through Weibo. From time to time, she would open her mouth to welcome the watermelon he fed her. She was extremely comfortable. When Yen Bingqing saw this scene, she was stunned on the spot. Even Mo Yen, who was behind her, widened his eyes in an exaggerated manner. He could not believe his eyes at all. Mu Yaja, who was rumored to be swift and decisive and cold, had actually put down his arrogance to serve someone at this moment. He could not believe what he was seeing. In her impression, this man had always been high and mighty, just like the crown prince of the empire, noble and arrogant. However, at this moment, this man, who had always been able to call the shots in the business and political circles, was actually serving a woman so dotingly, allowing her to do whatever she wanted in his arms. Those hands, which had played with so many bloody storms, actually put down the fruit plate at this moment, carefully peeled the orange peel, and fed the peeled flesh into her mouth piece by piece. Are they the same person? Mo Yen wondered if the man in front of him was really Mu Yaja. When Yun Shishir saw that it was Yen Bingqing, the smile on her face instantly faded. She slowly sat up in Mu Yaja's arms and stared at her warily. Seeing her get up, Mu Yaja also looked up. When he saw Yen Bingqing and Mo Yen standing at the door in a daze, he frowned slightly in displeasure at their untimely interruption. "What are you doing here?" Yun Shishir looked at Yen Bingqing warily and asked suspiciously. Yen Bingqing opened her mouth, wanting to say something but hesitated. Mo Yen, who was beside her, cleared his throat and immediately stated the purpose of his visit. When he opened his mouth, it was nothing more than to make a statement and represent Yen Bingqing. What he said was nothing more than hypocritical and high-sounding words. Yun Shishir, on the other hand, sat calmly by the bed with her legs crossed elegantly. Her neither humble nor humble posture made Yen Bingqing feel even more disgusted. This feeling of inferiority was nauseating. Originally, she had come this time to obey Mo Yan's arrangement. After all, she was really afraid that Huanyu would really take action and ban her. Mu Yaja could ban someone with just a few words, but her life was over. However, now that she saw Yun Shishir's cold expression, she felt especially upset. Chapter 732. She seemed to have never been so humble to anyone before. "Hello, Miss Yun. I'm Bingqing's manager. I came to the hospital with Bingqing today to visit you, Miss Yun. Secondly, I'm here to apologize on behalf of Bingqing and Miss Yun for the unpleasantness that happened on the set. At the same time, I'm here to apologize to Miss Yun. I think that all of this is just a misunderstanding. Since it's a misunderstanding, why don't we turn it into a small one? In the future, we'll all see each other on the set. I hope that Miss Yun will be magnanimous and forgive Bingqing for offending you. I only hope that the situation won't be too embarrassing. Don't you think so, Miss Yun?" Mo Yen said with a smile. He looked at Yun Shishir with an amiable smile and said gently, "Miss Yun, what do you think?" Yun Shishir's expression turned cold. "Oh, that's it." Her cold attitude made Yen Bingqing even more flustered. She couldn't help but raise her chin slightly, obviously unwilling to lower her stance too much. Mo Yen was stunned. "Miss Yun, we're really apologizing to you very sincerely. Bingqing did something wrong." "Something wrong?" Yun Shishir cut him off and picked out the main point. She sneered and muttered to herself. No. Mo Yen was forced to break out in a sweat. He immediately explained, "Bingqing has indeed gone overboard, so I brought her here to apologize to you. I think there must be some kind of misunderstanding. Yun Shirshir tilted her head slightly. Her eyes were tinged with mockery as she said quietly, "So you're saying that you can take action just because of a misunderstanding, huh?" Mo Yin was speechless for a moment. This was originally just an excuse to go through the motions. Who would have thought that she would be so calculative about it? Even though he had seen many situations, he didn't know how to respond for a moment. He only pursed his lips awkwardly and said nicely, "Miss Yun, Bingqing has also come to see you personally to apologize to you. This shows that she has deeply realized her mistake. It's great to know one's mistake and correct it. Why don't you resolve this conflict and be friends?" Be friends? Yun Shirshir's lips curled up slightly, and her eyes narrowed faintly. "Oh, since you keep saying that you want to apologize, but I don't see any sincerity." After pausing for a moment, she changed the topic and her cold gaze slowly fell on Yen Bingqing. Word by word she said, "Sister Bingqing, are you really here to apologize to me?" Yen Bingqing had been secretly sizing her up. Seeing her turn the conversation to her, she couldn't help but be startled. Her face turned ashen as she tightly clenched her fists, unable to squeeze out a single word for a long time. Yun Shirshir raised her eyebrows and reminded him patiently, Sister Bingqing, are you here to apologize?" Muyaja acted as if Mo Yen and Yen Bingqing did not exist. He lazily hugged Yun Shirshir's shoulders and fed her another grape. Yen Bingqing saw the unseen doting love that he had for her. She was jealous and angry at the same time. Apologize. She wanted her to apologize. What kind of joke was this? She was already giving face by listening to Mo Yen, but she actually wanted her to apologize? She couldn't swallow her pride for a moment. If Muyaja wasn't here, she might have cursed. Yun Shirshir glanced at her and understood what she was thinking at this moment. She smiled. Chapter 733. Sister Bingqing, even if you haven't received higher education, your teacher must have taught you to respect others when you were young. There are some things that you should do and some that you shouldn't do. You should be clear about that, right? If you don't even understand the basic principles of being a human, I advise you to continue with your compulsory education. Besides, your manager said that you're here with sincerity. I don't know what you mean by this attitude. Yun Shirshir's expression was indifferent, and there was a faint smile on her lips. Her words were like sharp thorns that stabbed fiercely into Yen Bingqing's heart. Yen Bingqing couldn't help but be enraged. A nameless fire burned between her brows. What did she mean by that? What did she mean by the principles of being a human? Was she implying that her actions weren't human? Even Mo Yen broke out in a cold sweat when he heard that. Yun Shirshir's words were polite on the surface, but there was obvious sarcasm and provocation in her words. She didn't even use a vulgar word. However, her words were like pearls and very reasonable. He just couldn't deny it. Besides, this matter was Yen Bingqing's fault to begin with. They didn't even have the right to refute it. Seeing that Mo Yen didn't say anything, Yen Bingqing became even more anxious. Did he really want her to apologize to a mere newbie? Not only did she embarrass her, but she also didn't give her a way out. The reason why she was willing to come along was that she thought that Mo Yen would be able to settle the matter by apologizing on her behalf. This Yun Shirshir was clearly trying to embarrass her. Yen Bingqing glared at Yun Shirshir angrily, only to see her looking at her indifferently. Her eyes were cold, and there was a cold glint in her eyes from time to time. That coldness was like the tip of a blood-stained knife in the middle of the winter night, piercing into one's bones and causing one's heart to turn cold. For a moment, Yen Bingqing was shocked by the sharp glint in her eyes. In fact, Yun Shirshir was never a timid person. On set, she was giving face to Yen Bingqing. During filming, no matter how hard Yen Bingqing hit her, she did not say anything to stop filming. Because this was her job, she respected everyone on the set. This was her principle. But Yen Bingqing had gone too far. She had slapped her repeatedly in the name of filming. Now, she said she was here to apologize, but she didn't have any sincerity. Yun Shirshir said slowly, "Sister Bingqing, has no one taught you how to apologize?" Yen Bingqing bit her lip and looked at her, then at Muyaja. However, the man only looked at Yun Shirshir dotingly and did not look at her at all. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little tense, Mo Yen stepped forward and gently pushed Yen Bingqing in front of Tang Wei. He coughed softly and reminded her, "Bingqing, hurry and apologize to Miss Yun." Yen Bingqing's chest swelled with pain. She clenched her fists so tightly that her sharp nails almost pierced through her palms. She suddenly took a deep breath and spat out a few words through gritted teeth. "I'm sorry for that." Her stiff tone was as if she wanted to cut Yun Shirshir into pieces. Every word was filled with needles. Your apology is too soft. It's not sincere enough. Yun Shirshir said aggrievedly, my left eardrum is perforated, so my hearing is weakened and hasn't recovered yet. Can you speak louder? Chapter 734. Yan Bingqing's heart was already burning with rage. If no one else was around, she would have already lost control and taught this ignorant B*TCH a good lesson. However, she still maintained a trace of rationality. Mo Yan's advice before she came was still vivid in her ears. Mu Yaja was still around. Even if it was for Mu Yaja's sake, she had to endure it. With that thought in mind, Yan Bingqing tried hard to put on a stiff smile. She lowered her head slightly and said word by word, Yun Shirshir, what happened before was my fault. I'm sorry. That's not a sincere apology. Yun Shirshir said lazily. I didn't hear it. Yan Bingqing gritted her teeth and took a deep breath. The humiliation in her heart was almost burning. I'm sorry. I didn't hear it. I'm sorry. You're still too soft. Speak louder. Yan Bingqing gritted her teeth and raised her voice. It almost shook the entire ward. I'm sorry. Yun Shirshir didn't seem to want to let it go just like that. She curled her lips and said, why is it that you're clearly apologizing, but looking at your expression, it's obvious that you want to cut me into pieces? You, Yan Bingqing, no one is forcing you to apologize. If you're not sincere, the door is behind you, Yun Shirshir said slowly. Mu Yaja couldn't help but laugh. He knew very well that she had heard Yan Bingqing's apology. However, she pretended not to hear it on purpose. Obviously, she wanted to get back at Yan Bingqing for all the grievances she had suffered previously. She also knew in her heart that Yan Bingqing was being so polite to her because of Mu Yaja. She did not have enough face to make Yan Bingqing lower her head and compromise to her in such a submissive manner. However, this was her character. If she didn't take revenge, she wasn't a gentleman. No matter what method he used, could he expect her to be magnanimous enough to forgive someone who had hurt her? What's more, Yan Bingqing's apology wasn't very sincere. It was nothing more than a show of politeness on the surface. Who knows, maybe she was gnashing her teeth and itching to skin her alive. Mu Yaja saw her flaunting her power in front of Yan Bingqing. He knew that she was using his power as a tool. However, he loved the way this woman used his backing to bully others. At the very least, it gave him a sense of being relied on. The feeling of being relied on was not bad. He loved this feeling. He couldn't help but reach out and hug her shoulders. If there were any outsiders here, he would probably be unable to resist kissing her cute and tender lips. Yan Bingqing saw the indulgence and love in his eyes for Yun Shirshir, and her heart was filled with jealousy and hatred. A man like Mu Yaja was the cream of the crop, the cream of the crop. The entertainment industry wasn't as simple as the outside world thought. The celebrities in this industry all had powerful backing. Even though Yan Bingqing was stunningly beautiful, she wasn't born to be an actress. Her acting skills were poor, and her popularity had always been lukewarm. It was only after she hooked up with Yang Shouqing and he gave her a lot of resources that she had a chance to make a comeback. Moreover, the public relations team behind him had created an outstanding image for her, so she had a chance to jump to the top. However, Yang Shouqing was old, ugly, and perverted. He couldn't even compare to a finger of Mu Yaja. Chapter 735. Yun Shirshir was truly an idiot. With a man like Mu Yaja behind her, logically speaking, she should not be lacking in resources. However, she seemed to want to rely on her own efforts to climb up the ladder. Yan Bingqing felt even more upset. What a waste. A man like Mu Yaja was someone whom many in the entertainment industry would line up to befriend, yet they could only look up to in awe. Yun Shirshir, I've already shown my sincerity. What else do you want? Yan Bingqing suppressed the humiliation in her heart and maintained a stiff smile on her face. But I can't see your sincerity, Yun Shirshir said somewhat innocently. Yan Bingqing gritted her teeth and asked again, then how can I show you my sincerity? Yun Shirshir pondered for a moment before abruptly saying nonchalantly, why don't you let me hit you back? As soon as she said that, even Yan Bingqing and Mo Yan were stunned. Mu Yaja was the only one who remained calm on the surface. Inside, however, he was amused by the fact that Yun Shirshir could say such black-bellied words with a straight face. He initially thought that this woman would only scratch her claws like a cat in front of him. He did not expect that she would do the same to others when they provoked her. He suddenly understood where Yun Chenyo's seemingly innocent but extremely black-bellied genes came from. What did you say? Yan Bingqing thought that she had heard wrongly. She exchanged glances with Mo Yan in disbelief. Let me hit you back, Yun Shirshir repeated with a smile. Yan Bingqing was completely stunned. A complicated expression of humiliation and anger surfaced on her face. She was extremely embarrassed. Mo Yan's expression was even worse. He was shocked and stunned as he stared with his mouth agape. Yun Shishir said seriously, my request isn't too much, right? You see, you're tall and strong and your arms are so thick, yet you slapped me 16 times. I'm so skinny, so I'm sure I don't have that much strength. Let me slap you back and you won't be at a disadvantage, right? Yan Bingqing's lips twitched violently. She didn't expect that Yun Shishir, who was as white as a little lamb on the surface, was so black on the inside. Do you think this is too much to ask? Yun Shishir looked up at Mu Yaja. Mu Yaja pursed his lips and couldn't help but scratch her nose. As long as you're happy. What about you? Yun Shishir looked at him again. The latter fell silent and had nothing to say. In fact, he didn't think it was too much to ask. If he could let Yun Shishir slap him 16 times, he would be able to write off the grudge between them. He felt that it was worth it. It wasn't a harsh request at all. If it was possible, he could even take the hit on behalf of Yan Bingqing. However, to Yan Bingqing, it was an extremely harsh request. She had always been proud and prideful. How could she agree to it? Impossible. As expected, Yan Bingqing couldn't accept this condition. Then I won't forgive you. Yun Shishir pretended to snort childishly. Yan Bingqing's face instantly turned gloomy. Mu Yaja turned and looked at Yan Bingqing. His expression turned cold. If she wants to slap you back, let her slap you back. He had always seen his woman being bullied. Occasionally he also wanted to see how his woman bullied others. Yan Bingqing clenched her fists. Her sharp nails pierced into her flesh, and a dull pain came from her palms. Chapter 736. Yun Shishir was slightly surprised. She did not expect that Yan Bingqing would actually agree to her request. It was a little unbelievable. It seemed that Mu Yaja had a lot of influence. So much so that even Yan Bingqing, who had always prided herself as a queen, was willing to lower her head to her. However, now that things had come to this, how could she reject someone who wanted to hit her? Yun Shishir walked up to Yan Bingqing and exercised her wrists. Raise your head. It's not easy for me to hit you with your head so low. Yan Bingqing endured the humiliation and raised her head. Before she could see the expression on Yun Shishir's face clearly, her face was slapped to the side. Slap. It was a crisp sound. Although Yun Shishir looked weak and boneless, one must not forget that she had scored full marks in all subjects during military training. She still had some strength in her hands. The slap swept across. Yan Bingqing's ears rang and a white light flashed before her eyes. Does it hurt? Yun Shishir asked with concern. Yan Bingqing gritted her teeth so hard that they were about to shatter, but she still insisted on keeping up appearances. It doesn't hurt. Yun Shishir gave her another slap. This slap was even stronger than the previous one. Yan Bingqing lost her balance and fell to the ground. Mo Yan was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. Mu Yaja could not help but loosen his originally taut handsome face. You're so weak. Stand up. I haven't had my fill yet. Yun Shishir kicked with the tip of her foot and said seriously, I'm very fair. There are still 14 slaps left. Let's see what I can do to you. Yan Bingqing gritted her teeth and got up from the ground. Yun Shishir gave her another slap. His palms were burning with pain. Yan Bingqing only felt that she had nowhere to vent her grievances and humiliation. She fiercely suppressed them and tears suddenly overflowed from her eyes. He looked extremely pitiful. Yun Shishir, on the other hand, found his face to be truly nauseating. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It was only 3 slaps and she already felt wronged? But why didn't she think about how many times Yan Bingqing had slapped her in front of everyone? Was she crying? Pa. Yan Bingqing couldn't take it anymore. She took a step back and was reluctant to let her hit her. Enough. Yun Shishir, stop torturing me like this. Yan Bingqing's tears flowed freely. She felt that at this moment she had lost all her dignity and face. It was as if a person had been stripped naked and was standing in front of everyone. It was incomparably humiliating. It's not enough. Yun Shishir said seriously. I've only returned your 4 slaps. There are still 12 more. When did I hit you so many times? Yan Bingqing broke down and lost control of her anger. Yes. Yun Shishir looked at her with a determined gaze. Every slap you gave me left a deep impression on me. That kind of humiliation and unwillingness went deep into her heart. Yun Shishir said a little impatiently, Can you continue? Don't make it seem like I'm bullying you. Yan Bingqing glared at her sharply. The 4 slaps were so sweeping that her mind was a little muddled. In a moment of impulse she said indignantly, Yun Shishir, aren't you relying on Mu Yaja to show off in front of me? As soon as she said that, the scene fell silent. Yun Shishir raised her eyebrows and said calmly, "That's right." Yan Bingqing was stunned. "I'm using my power to bully you." "And then?" Yun Shishir said frankly. Chapter 737. Mu Yaja's thin lips curled into an extremely sexy sneer as he stood up. His tall figure immediately contrasted with the spacious ward, making it seem a little narrow. He looked up and his cold gaze landed on Yan Bingqing's face. "I dote on her. Do you have a problem with that?" Yan Bingqing was stunned. Mo Yan was so frightened by his gaze that he lowered his head and shrunk his shoulders. This man's aura was so strong that it was terrifying. "Chairman Mu." Yan Bingqing put on a pitiful expression and wanted to plead with him. However, Mu Yaja hugged Yun Shishir's shoulders and did not even look at her. "Get lost." I told you to get lost. Didn't you hear me?" Mu Yaja's eyes were sharp. Yan Bingqing was so frightened that she took 3 steps back and did not dare to say anything else. Under Mu Yaja's cold and frightening gaze, she and Mo Yan left dejectedly. Yun Shishir was still not satisfied. "You let them go just like that? I haven't shown off enough." Mu Yaja lowered his head and looked at Yun Shishir's face. He could not help but feel that she was so cute at this moment. He could not help but bite her ear and say seductively, "Little thing, you're so naughty." "How am I naughty?" "You're using me as a tool." "Humph, I'd be a fool if I didn't rely on a backer," Yun Shishir replied seriously. "I'd be a fool if I didn't rely on a backer." This reply was so cute and classic. Mu Yaja's heart leaped. He could not help but peck her on the cheek. "I'm such a big backer. You can rely on me however you want." His domineering and indulgent tone made her laugh in her heart. She licked her pink lips and pretended to be distressed. Big Boss Mu, is this considered an unspoken rule?" Mu Yaja blurted out, "I'm sleeping with my woman. Do you have a problem with that?" "You have a problem with me sleeping with my woman?" Yun Shishir was stunned. After a while, she pursed her lips shyly and lowered her head. She was actually a little shy. This man just now seemed to have said something that made her heart race. Mu Yaja saw her lower her head, and thought what happened to her. He grabbed her chin and forced her to raise her head, only to see her face flushed. It turned out that she was shy. "Shy?" Yun Shishir said coquettishly, "No. You clearly do. Your face is red." Mu Yaja pinched her cheeks. Her skin was very tender and nice to the touch. He couldn't help but pinch it a few more times. "Stop fooling around." Yun Shishir slapped his hand away and said helplessly, "Do you think I'm Yu?" She looked up, and in the next second, Mu Yaja's handsome face suddenly pressed down, and his thin lips sealed her tender little mouth. He had wanted to kiss her for a long time, and he couldn't wait to chase away those people who were in the way. It was all for this moment. Yun Shishir was in the ward now, and if a nurse came in later and saw this scene, it would be awkward. Mu Yaja didn't allow her to resist. He grabbed her little hand that was causing trouble, cupped the back of her neck and deepened the kiss. He first licked her lips carefully, and then sucked the sparkling strands clean bit by bit. Then he pried open her lips and invaded. It was a charming kiss. Mu Yaja, however, seemed as if he couldn't get enough of her. He wanted to taste her sweetness even more. Yun Shishir, however, bit the corner of his lips, implying that he should stop before he went too far. Mu Yaja looked up and pressed his lips against hers, smelling the orchid fragrance between her lips and teeth with infatuation. In her heart she thought that he was really hopeless. It was as if she had given him the most poisonous poison in the world. Chapter 738. After leaving the ward and walking along the hospital corridor, Yan Bingqing walked quickly. She could not wait to leave this godforsaken place, this place where she had lost all her dignity. Everything that happened in the ward just now was still vivid in her mind. A huge humiliation surfaced in her heart. She would remember this shame and hatred. Sooner or later she would make Yun Shishir pay the price for every word she said to humiliate her today. When they got into the car, Mo Yen could not help but scold her. "Why were you so impulsive just now? How could you speak like that in front of Chairman Mu? Just bear with it and everything will be fine, won't it?" Yan Bingqing widened her eyes in disbelief. The humiliation and unbearable humiliation she had suffered in front of Yun Shishir could no longer be held back and exploded. "What do you mean? Are you blaming me?" "Mo Yen, don't. You're too much of a bully. Didn't you see how much Yun Shishir went overboard just now?" Mo Yen touched his nose in annoyance but did not say a word. In fact, he did not think that Yun Shishir's request was too much. If suffering a dozen slaps in exchange for Yan Bingqing's safety, he felt that this request was not harsh at all. It was just that Yan Bingqing had always been arrogant and had never bowed her head to anyone. Even Yang Shouqing treated her like the apple of his eye. That was why she had developed such an arrogant and willful personality. Forget it. He did not know if this matter could be overturned just like that. That Yun Shirshir seemed to be easy to talk to and reasonable. He would visit her personally another day. He had to choose a time when Mu Yaja was not around to apologize to Yan Bingqing properly. Perhaps she would be moved by it. Yun Shirshir did not deliberately make things difficult for them when they visited this time. This woman was not a difficult person to deal with. Otherwise, given Mu Yaja's methods just based on Yan Bingqing's attitude just now, he and Yan Bingqing might not be able to walk out of the hospital safely. Seeing his complicated expression, Yan Bingqing asked worriedly, "Mo Yan, what do we do now?" "What can we do?" Mo Yan narrowed his eyes. "We can only deal with whatever comes our way. Let's take one step at a time." Yan Bingqing pursed her lips and said solemnly, "Next time I won't do this again." There's a next time?" Mo Yan rolled his eyes. "If there's a next time, I can only say that you should change your boss. I can't support you anymore. I don't know how to resolve this matter. But not this time. Asking me to lower my head to that bitch, I really can't swallow this anger." Yan Bingqing gnashed her teeth. Mo Yan glanced at her coldly but did not say a word. He was only thinking about how to get Yun Shirshir's forgiveness. However, he did not expect that he would not have this chance. Huan Yu had already made a move before him. Big Shot production team exposed unspoken rules and Yan Bingqing was accused of bullying a newcomer. Yan Bingqing slapped a newcomer? Staff, slapped more than 10 times. The next day at almost dawn, various media outlets released breaking news. Countless eye-catching headlines instantly occupied the headlines of various media outlets. Yan Bingqing used acting to vent her anger, slapped a newcomer until her eardrum perforated. Yan Bingqing exposed another scandal, slapped a newcomer 16 times until her eyes bled. Chapter 739. All of a sudden the news of Yan Bingqing hitting someone on set spread like wildfire. On Weibo, forums, community boards, and even many people who didn't pay attention to the entertainment industry were talking about it. Yan Bingqing bullied a newcomer? At first glance it didn't seem like big news. After all, in the entertainment industry in such a big environment, bullying newcomers was a common occurrence. Huan Yu's authoritative media outlets published headlines on Weibo one after another. The content said that Yan Bingqing and Yun Shirshir didn't get along on set because Yun Shirshir had snatched away Yan Bingqing's role as the female lead. Yan Bingqing held a grudge against Yun Shirshir, so she used the slap scene as an excuse to deliberately NG. She didn't even recite her lines and slapped Yun Shirshir a total of 16 times. The staff on set even revealed that Yan Bingqing and Yun Shirshir had joined the set at the same time. However, whether it was the actors, staff, or even the small extras, they were full of praise for Yun Shirshir's character. Yun Shirshir's character was immensely popular. On the other hand, Yan Bingqing's staff anonymously revealed that not only did she act like a big shot in the set, but she also secretly ostracized other artists, especially Yun Shirshir. She targeted her and was always at loggerheads with her. Once the news was exposed, the outside world was in an uproar. In the eyes of the public, Yan Bingqing was an outstanding beauty with no acting skills. She had acted in many movies and television dramas, but because of her lousy acting skills, she had always been criticized. However, because of her beauty, she still attracted a group of fans. At first, when the news was published, the netizens were skeptical. Slapping Yun Shirshir and bullying a newcomer? Yan Bingqing was already an A-list celebrity. Would she still do such a stupid thing? It was just Yun Shirshir. Would Yan Bingqing be so stupid as to do something so brainless? Did his IQ drop? Rational netizens initially held the attitude of onlookers. Nowadays, the entertainment industry was full of surprises, and netizens had long been used to the bombardment of scandals and hype. Moreover, the filming of The Green Apple was still ongoing. It was most likely a gimmick made up to create hype for the movie. Moreover, the anonymous leak from the crew had no credibility at all. Moreover, the two people at the center of the incident did not step forward to respond. Therefore, this matter was like looking at flowers in a fog, somewhat confusing. Even so, there were still many fans fighting on Weibo. Yun Shirshir gained a lot of fans after the release of the final makeup photos for The Green Apple. Because of her fresh and refined image, there was a lot of reaction among the fans of the original novel. Many people were touched that Yun Shirshir's image matched the original novel's character. They all saw her as a new generation goddess who had broken the dimensional wall. She quickly gained a group of loyal fans. However, compared to Yun Shirshir, Yan Bingqing lagged behind a lot in this aspect. Although Yan Bingqing had acted in many movies and television dramas, because of her different roles she was very popular with the audience. However, she did not have much fan appeal. The group of people arguing with Yun Shishir's fans on Weibo were the ghostwriters hired by her studio. At this moment, Yan Bingqing's studio was in a panic. Chapter 740. Yan Bingqing also did not expect Huanyu to act so quickly. In one night they had actually concocted so many articles. For a time the phrase Yan Bingqing slaps a newcomer jumped to the top of Weibo's trending searches. Many media outlets bombarded her with calls, wanting to interview her as soon as possible. Yan Bingqing had no choice but to switch off her phone. Not only her but even her assistant's phone was flooded with calls. Mo Yan immediately gathered everyone in the PR team to the office to preside over the situation. Yan Bingqing picked up her tablet and scrolled through Weibo for a while. She was shocked to find that the scolding war on Weibo had already spread like fire and ice. The fighting power of Yun Shishir's fan army was amazing. They actually went to her Weibo in droves, threatening to get out of the entertainment industry. Yan Bingqing was so angry that her face turned pale. Mo Yan ordered people to produce a few articles and immediately posted them on the internet. With Mo Yan presiding over the situation, Yan Bingqing immediately responded to the incident on Weibo. The content of her response was nothing more than an attempt to clear her name. Yan Bingqing repeatedly emphasized that the so-called bullying of a newbie was fabricated and that there was no such thing. In the production team she had a good relationship with Yun Shishir. They were also very harmonious and there was no disagreement. As for this slapping incident that the media had previously exposed, Yan Bingqing explained on Weibo that it was not a slap as the media had said. It was just that she was not in a good state at that time and it was difficult for her to get into the mood for the first scene, so there were always NGs. She was also not stingy with her praise for Yun Shishir as a dedicated newbie. Even though filming was often interrupted, she did not have the slightest complaint. Outside of filming, the two of them were also very close and were like biological sisters. What incompatibility? What conflict? That's all nonsense. At the end of the article, there was also Yun Shishir's verified Weibo account and a flying kiss emoji. Finally, she replied in a meaningful tone. If you accuse me of bullying a newbie, can the media produce evidence? A basin of dirty water was splashed on me for no reason. Even though the sun was shining brightly outside the window, it made me feel cold in my heart. Rumors stop with the wise. I hope everyone can look at this matter rationally. With such a dignified response, the netizens were in an uproar again. After the post was posted on Weibo, the popularity of the post soared again. The name Yan Bingqing also jumped to the top of the hot search list and became one of the hottest topics. The water army hired by Yan Bingqing's studio also immediately guided the direction of public opinion on Weibo. They used all kinds of methods to wash the floor and they did everything they could. Many netizens who did not know the truth immediately swarmed the Weibo comment sections of various magazines, threatening to get the magazines to produce evidence of Yan Bingqing bullying a newcomer and slapping Yun Shishir. Since you released the news that Yan Bingqing slapped Yun Shishir, then please at least provide convincing evidence. Even if you don't have a video, you should at least have photos, right? Could this be a way for the newcomers to hype themselves? Recently, the words Yun Shishir have been flooding the screen. This newcomer seems so impressive. She signed with Huanyu right after her debut and even got the female lead role in director Lin's new movie. She even squeezed out a lot of A-list celebrities. Her background is obviously not simple. Chapter 741. The reason why many newbies can become famous so quickly is all because they have financial backers behind them. Don't be fooled by Yun Shishir's fresh and refined appearance. She may not be what you think she is. That's right. I agree with the comment above. Nowadays many newbies are very insidious. They purposely create hype by stepping on big shots. I didn't expect Yun Shishir to be such a scheming person. Why don't you think about it carefully? Is Yan Bingqing really the kind of person who would bully newbies? She has status and fame now. If it weren't for Lin Fengtian, do you think she really wants the resources of this movie? I've heard that Yun Shishir isn't a simple character. Think about it. A newbie who signed with Huanyu's headquarters right after her debut. Her manager is Gu Xingza's former manager, Qin Zhou. Qin Zhou must be very unfamiliar to everyone. It was this man who helped Gu Xingza conquer half of the entertainment industry. He has the most golden resources in the entertainment industry in his hands. Why would such a manager manage an unknown newbie? Don't you think it's strange? I'll only say one thing. A newbie who can attend Huanyu's annual cocktail party as Gu Xingza's partner. If you say she doesn't have any background, hee. Yun Shirshir, this newbie is not simple. In the movie The Green Apple, so many people fought so hard for the female lead role. In the end, it was a newbie with no reputation. I can only say that she has a strong background. Yan Bingqing's public relations team was top-notch. The fake reviewers in the studio were not ordinary people either. Very soon, the public opinion was reversed. Many Yan Bingqing fans went to Yun Shirshir's Weibo to post negative comments. They even argued that if they wanted to accuse Yan Bingqing of bullying a newbie, they should at least show evidence. Evidence, evidence. If you don't have evidence, what are you talking about? I'm not convinced without evidence. Another shameless newbie trying to create hype, hee. Doge, Bingqing won't take the blame for this. Goodbye, goodbye. All of a sudden, all the public opinion was directed at Yun Shirshir. Some were malicious, some were slanderous, and some were treacherous. Evidence? Where did the evidence come from? Yan Bingqing was certain that Huanyu wouldn't be able to produce any evidence in such a short time. At the beginning of the filming, the investors had signed a confidentiality agreement with the crew. The terms stated that no matter what the reason, the crew was not allowed to release the footage from the set to the public. This was to maintain the mystery of the movie before it was released, so that the public would have a sense of anticipation and novelty for the movie. If they violated the contract, the production crew would have to pay a sky-high amount of compensation for breach of contract. During the filming process, no staff member was allowed to film or record without permission. As for the recording of her slapping Yun Shirshir, it was impossible for the production crew to release it. Yan Bingqing guessed that Huanyu most likely wanted to teach her a lesson. The purpose was at most to scare her, but they wouldn't really kill her. After all, she was now Huanyu's #1 lady. She didn't believe that Mu Yaja would really disregard her years of friendship with Huanyu for Yun Shirshir. Yun Shirshir's Weibo was silent for a long time. The most recent post on Weibo was a selfie from the set. That was from half a month ago. What about Yun Shirshir? Chapter 742. Where did she go? Could it be that she had become a coward because of her guilty conscience? The war on Weibo was at its peak for a while. Yan Bingqing's troll army was aggressive and wanted to turn the situation upside down. Some of Yun Shirshir's loyal fans could not help but waver in this chaotic situation. From their initial determination to wavering, and then to Yan Bingqing Studios' bombardment of press releases, they gradually became suspicious. In the end, many fans who were not determined enough listened to Yan Bingqing's PR statement and immediately ran to Yun Shirshir's Weibo to create a ruckus. This war of words fell into a tense atmosphere for a while. Yan Bingqing browsed through the war on Weibo. The current situation was leaning towards her. While she was pleased with herself, she also felt a little uneasy. There was no movement at all from the 8 major media under Huanyu. It was dead silent. She felt that there was something fishy about it. Was the short silence the calm before the storm? Yan Bingqing's worries were soon confirmed, because she found that her Weibo account had been blocked. When she tried to log in again and again, she was depressed to find that her account had been blocked by the website's operations. Blocked? She was not the only one. Even the other people in the studio had their Weibo accounts blocked and could not log in. Mo Yin called the website's operations team and asked to restore their login rights. In the end, he was told that the operations team did not have the authority to restore their login rights. No authority? Mo Yin was stunned. What did that mean? It meant that the ones who blocked their accounts were the higher-ups of the company. This meant that Huanyu had started to take action. One after another, the troll accounts hired by the studio were also blocked and could not log in. Mo Yan's expression was extremely miserable. The other people in the studio started to look for various channels. However, they found that not only Weibo but also many well-known forums and communities, their login rights were also blocked. In the evening, the official Weibo account of The Green Apple posted a long post. The post was a few thousand words long, and it revealed that Yan Bingqing had acted like a big shot in the crew, sneaked into the crew, requested additional scenes without permission, and maliciously ostracized other actors and actresses in the crew. In the end, the crew unanimously decided to kick Yan Bingqing out of the cast for violating the crew rules. Her role would be given to another actress from Huanyu. This decision had already been approved by the investors. Yan Bingqing's role had been replaced. Once the announcement came out, it immediately caused an uproar. This also meant that Yan Bingqing was officially removed from the cast. Moreover, the official announcement on the film crew's official website seemed to confirm that Yan Bingqing had slapped Yun Shirshir. Huanyu also began to take action. The 8 authoritative entertainment media under its control blocked and removed the defamatory articles released by Yan Bingqing's studio. At 7 p.m., Huan Yu's official Weibo suddenly posted a video online. It was a video edited from the master tape taken at the scene. The title was very clear and eye-catching. It pointed out that Yan Bingqing had ostracized newcomers in the crew. In the slapping scene, Yan Bingqing had maliciously NG'd and slapped Yun Shishir until her eardrum perforated. Apart from the video, there was also a diagnosis issued by the hospital. There were a few names on the diagnosis: external force caused perforation of eardrum, subconjunctival hemorrhage, mild concussion. Chapter 743. In the video, Yan Bingqing slapped Yun Shishir 6 times in a row. Her eyes were vicious and each slap was extremely powerful. There were a few times when Yun Shishir fell to the ground in a sorry state. Yan Bingqing not only did not help her up, but she also pursed her lips and snickered secretly. Her sinister and vicious look was completely different from the goddess image that she usually created in front of the public. The netizens watched the video several times, but they did not see any arrogance or haughtiness from Yun Shishir toward her seniors, unlike what was rumored. On the contrary, she was very respectful to every member of the crew. Even if Yan Bingqing came up with all kinds of ridiculous excuses to deliberately NGs, she would still sincerely apologize to the director and the cameraman and thank them. She was a very humble and polite person. On the contrary, Yan Bingqing's performance during filming was completely different from the way she usually acted in front of the public. She was rude, unreasonable, arrogant, and acted like a big shot. Her ugly face was suddenly exposed in front of the netizens, causing them to be filled with righteous indignation. The netizens could not accept the fact that the truth of the matter was so disappointing. The goddess in their hearts was actually such a vicious person. Yan Bingqing's ruthlessness was hard for the netizens to accept, but they also saw her true colors clearly. Yan Bingqing's diehard fans were even more furious when they saw the video. The beautiful and gentle goddess in front of the public in the past had actually used such a ruthless method to bully a newcomer. The truth of the matter shocked everyone. In their disappointment, they instantly turned against Yun Shishir and resolutely stood in her camp. On Weibo, Cheba, forums and other websites, the Yan Bingqing slapping Yun Shishir incident was also on the top of the headlines. For a time, this incident caused a huge commotion and everyone knew about it. The other artists in the cast of The Green Apple, led by Gu Xingze, were the first to repost Huan Yu's Weibo and express their stance. "I'm heartbroken that such a thing happened in the cast. There are such black sheep in the entertainment industry, which is why the entertainment industry is so foul. My heart aches for Shishir. Although Shishir is a newcomer, she is a senior and is very friendly to everyone in the cast. I hope that Shishir can rest in peace and return to the cast soon. Heart." Gu Xingze's Weibo had just been posted, and the number of views reached a new high. Gu Xingze's fans immediately left comments in support of their idol. Then Yang Mi, Li Jiuxian and other artists also reposted Weibo to support for Yun Shishir's position. Junimo also, "A certain A-list female celebrity is too much. He slapped him 16 times in a row, until his eardrums perforated. No matter what grudge she has against Shishir, Shishir is my god, Shishir is my best friend, Shishir my best friend. How come I didn't know about those groundless rumors about Shishir acting like a big shot? Don't think that you can clear your name by slandering others." Jun Mo played a male character in The Green Apple, and received the attention of many fans of the original novel. In addition to Jun Mo's fan effect, this Weibo post was quickly reposted more than 10,000 times. Chapter 744. Not only that, but Yan Bingqing was also domineering in the production team. She ordered the staff and extras around and even looked down on many actors. One actor even proved that Yan Bingqing ostracized Yun Shishir because Yun Shishir's popularity on Weibo had already surpassed hers. Hence, she was jealous and even took it out on Yun Shishir's assistant. When Yun Shishir saw that her assistant had been scalded, she immediately argued with Yan Bingqing. She was not afraid of Yan Bingqing's threats and asked her to apologize to her assistant. Yan Bingqing and Yun Shishir became enemies because of this and bore a grudge against her. Once the news of Yun Shishir offending Yan Bingqing for protecting her assistant was exposed, the netizens immediately praised her character. At the same time, many netizens dug up Yan Bingqing's dark history since her debut. Yan Bingqing's 10 deadly sins quickly became a trending topic. Han Yuyan cried after being scolded by Yan Bingqing. 818's top 10 female celebrities who were often bullied before their fame. Yan Bingqing's unspeakable secrets behind her fame. Yan Bingqing's unspeakable secrets behind her fame. Meng Xiao and Yan Bingqing caught having an affair under the dining table. Rumor of Meng Xiao keeping Yan Bingqing as a mistress. On Jianghu, A netizen even posted a post to dig into the matter. Yan Bingqing, the queen of bad movies. Why is this kind of star who specializes in bad movies so popular? Netizens of all kinds left comments under the post, digging up Yan Bingqing's dark history. When Mo Yan browsed through the post, his face turned green with anger. He couldn't help but sigh. Yan Bingqing's popularity in the entertainment industry was particularly poor. All along she had relied on the strong support of a big financial backer behind her and never put other stars in her eyes. She had also offended many female artists who had worked with her before. Among them, the conflict between Han Yuyan and Yan Bingqing was especially big. Previously, when the two of them were filming a movie together, there were many rumors that they did not get along. It was said that the two of them already had a grudge against each other. The reason was that Yan Bingqing had used her resources to cut out many of Han Yuyan's scenes in order to steal the limelight. Because of this, many entertainment reporters took pictures of the two of them together. Han Yuyan stood next to Yan Bingqing with a dark expression on her face. This time, Yan Bingqing had lost her power and fell into the water. Naturally, Han Yuyan's studio would not let this matter rest. They kicked her when she was down and released an announcement to trample on Yan Bingqing. Han Yuyan even posted on Weibo saying, "Such things are common in the entertainment industry, but this is the most overboard. It's good that it's exposed. Otherwise, if she continues to be so arrogant, who knows how many more victims there will be." Once Han Yuyan's Weibo post was released, netizens immediately dug up that before Yan Bingqing entered the entertainment industry, she was a famous bar hostess who was supported by several financial backers. This dark history was soon confirmed. A netizen claimed to be a rich second-generation heir. Before Yan Bingqing debuted, she was a bar hostess in his city's Xintiandi bar. It was said that she could sleep with a famous black fungus for 500 yuan a night. Yan Bingqing's unbearable past was soon exposed on the internet. Mo Yan could no longer sit still. He immediately called various channels to request permission to open their accounts. This time, however, Huan Yu's ban was unprecedented. No matter how much Mo Yan begged, no one was willing to help him. Chapter 745. *CK. At this time, Yan Bingqing still dared to drag them down. Whoever stood on Yan Bingqing's team was clearly going against Huan Yu. Who would dare? Even if he ate a bear's heart and leopard's gall, he wouldn't dare to make an enemy out of Huan Yu. If Huan Yu wanted to ban someone, no one would dare to stop them. Otherwise, whoever wanted to help them would be banned as well. Only a lunatic would stand on Yan Bingqing's side. Yan Bingqing immediately went to Yang Shouqing. Regarding this matter, Yang Shouqing was really helpless. In the mainland's market, his words never carried much weight. Even if he had some status in the mainland, he did not have the final say. His backbone was in the Hong Kong market. Now that the Hong Kong film industry had declined, he tried to shift his focus to the mainland. He wanted to invest in Huan Yu and get a share of the mainland market. But Huan Yu did not give him a chance. Moreover, he knew in his heart that if Mu Yaja wanted to ban someone, he did not even have the chance to plead for them. In Mu Yaja's eyes, Yang Shouqing's face was not worth a few cents. Yan Bingqing cried in front of him. Her helpless look made his heart ache, but the most Yang Shouqing could do was to promise her that he could arrange for her to develop in Hong Kong. When he said this, Yan Bingqing was completely hopeless. She had hugged the wrong Buddha's feet. While she was feeling hopeless, she was more afraid. She was afraid of Mu Yaja. How powerful was this man? In just one night, he had completely pushed her to the bottom of the valley. There was no room for struggle at all. What magic did this Yun Shirshir have to make so many people rush forward to protect her? Mu Yaja was one. Gu Xingze was also one. In her heart, she was also secretly regretting. If she had restrained herself a little back then, she would not be in this situation now. But there was no medicine for regret in this world. At this moment, Yan Bingqing wanted to go to the hospital to beg for Yun Shirshir's forgiveness, but she could not even take a step through the door. She was deeply aware that perhaps her entire life had been ruined. It's all over. In the past few days, Weibo had been bustling with activity. However, Yun Shirshir's Weibo, the other female protagonist of the incident, was cold and cheerless. She didn't even make a statement. Many netizens felt sorry for her and guessed that it was because she was injured and hospitalized that she couldn't stand up and express her opinion. In fact, under careful nursing, Yun Shirshir's injuries had healed and she had been discharged from the hospital in advance. Mu Yaja was worried that Yun Shirshir and Yun Tianyu would be upset if they saw the rumors circulating on the internet these few days. Hence, he made arrangements in advance for the family of four to head to a private island for a vacation after settling the overall situation. Yes, family of four. He liked this term very much. It felt very warm. It felt like home. Yun Shirshir was completely unaware of Mu Yaja's intentions. Originally, the doctor had said that she would only be discharged in 3 days. In the end, she was suddenly on vacation. When she reacted, all she saw was a boundless blue sea in front of her. Seagulls kept skimming over the sea level, making retching sounds, but they were quickly drowned out by the sound of waves crashing against the shore. The boundless blue sea seemed to be connected to the sky at the end of the sea level. Yun Shirshir had never seen such a blue sky before. It was so clear that it was not tainted with a trace of impurities. Because of this beautiful and pleasant scenery, the haze in her heart for many days was instantly swept away and swept away. Chapter 746. Mu Yaja bought it 3 years ago and opened up a road on the island. He spent a year building a castle on the island. The castle had a private helipad. It was a magnificent sight. When Yun Shirshir walked into the retro and luxurious castle, she was greeted by 2 rows of maids with respectful smiles on their faces. Everything in front of her turned her worldview upside down. She thought that places like castles were for the nobles and royalty to live in. What was the saying again? Money could make the devil turn millstones. Yu looked at Yun Shirshir's astonishment and felt a little indignant. What was a private island? He could buy one too. Mommy seemed to like this place a lot. Yu pondered for a moment. Should he buy a private island for Mommy too? The scenery here was not bad. An island should not be too expensive. It was hard to buy Mommy's happiness. Mu Yaja brought them here for a vacation out of the blue. One who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. At this thought, Yun Tianyu sized up the man warily, suspecting that he had ulterior motives for this trip. Mu Yaja looked at Yu's indignant face and quickly understood what he was thinking. He exchanged glances with Xiao Yichen. The tacit understanding between father and son made the little lad understand at once. Hence he walked forward, hooked his arm around Yun Tianyu's shoulder and smilingly asked, "Little brother, let's play beach volleyball, shall we?" "No." Yun Tianyu coldly rejected. "No." "What?" Xiao Yichen's eyes darted around before he covered his mouth and snickered. "Are you afraid that you can't beat me?" "Umph. How can that be? Do you think you can beat me with this level of skill?" Although he knew that the other was trying to provoke him, Yun Tianyu was still unconvinced. "You're obviously afraid of losing face to me. Sports are my forte. You're far behind me in this aspect. Let's compete. I'm not afraid of you. Come on." Xiao Yichen tauntingly hooked his finger at him. Naturally, Yun Tianyu was indignant and rubbed his palms together. He took the bait. Xiao Yichen stepped forward to grab Yun Tianyu's hand and pulled him away. Before he left, he didn't forget to turn back to give Mu Yaja a thumbs up and mouthed, "Daddy, you can do it." "Well done," Mu Yaja mouthed back. The 2 little lads disappeared in an instant. At this moment, Yun Shirshir was standing in front of a mural, looking at it in a daze. Mu Yaja walked over, put his arm around her shoulder, and rested his chin on her shoulder lazily. "Do you like it here?" "I like it." Yun Shirshir's eyes were bright, and she couldn't hide her amazement. "Do you know? This is the first time I've seen the sea." "Never seen it before?" "Yes. I didn't have the chance to see it before." Yun Shirshir pursed her lips and looked at him sideways. "This castle is so beautiful. Can I take a look around?" "Of course." Mu Yaja gently held her hand and led her to the second floor. There were a total of 3 rooms on the second floor. Among them, the 200-square-meter bedroom came with a separate bathroom, cloakroom, and living room. The retro Rococo style was used to decorate the room. It was dreamy. Lying on the soft princess bed, she could not help but have the illusion that she was in a castle in a fairy tale. Unbelievable. Every girl had a princess dream in her heart. Not every princess dream could come true though. Chapter 747. It's so beautiful, just like the ancient castles and fairy tales. The castle was huge. Excluding the attic, there were a total of 5 floors. It was unbelievably huge. According to her estimation, it was more than 5,000 square meters. This was just an estimate. In fact, it might be much more than that. There were magnificent arches and beautiful wall lamps. Walking along the long corridor through the clear floor-to-ceiling windows, one could see the breathtaking beauty of the beach. Yun Shirshir stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked at the endless sea. The waves rose and the clouds surged. The sea reflected the sky and the sky covered the sea, forming a line. It was magnificent. She took a deep breath. Even the air was so fresh. It was the first time in her life that she breathed in such pure air. Yun Shirshir suddenly realized the true beauty of this world. Mu Yaja stood behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, encircling her in his embrace. He lowered his head to look at her bright smile, which was gentle and moving. The softest part of his heart was mesmerized by her smile. Is it beautiful? Beautiful. Yun Shishir raised her smiling face, her eyes reflecting the blue sky. Muyaja couldn't help but kiss her forehead. In his heart, the most beautiful thing was her eyes, which were looking at the beautiful scenery. So beautiful. She couldn't help but ask. She was really curious. Why did you suddenly have the idea to bring me here? However, he said, isn't it good to take a vacation and recuperate, away from all the troubles? Vacation, what a luxurious way to put it. Yun Shishir sighed. But this is indeed a good place to take a vacation. If you like it, this place will be yours in the future. Yun Shishir was stunned. What do you mean? I'm giving this island to you. Do you like it? I don't want it. Yun Shishir said, this is your property. It's yours. I don't want it. Isn't what's mine also yours? Muyaja said matter-of-factly, not allowing her to refuse. What are you talking about? Yun Shishir, I'll give you anything in this world that you want. My everything is yours. Yun Shishir couldn't help but widen her eyes in astonishment. Muyaja lowered his head and gently sealed her lips. His thin lips pressed against hers and he smiled. Then he announced domineeringly, you're mine. After saying that, he deepened the kiss. Yun Shishir smiled. Her face blushed and she pushed his chest. However, the man did not allow her to explain and grabbed her little hand that was causing trouble, not allowing her to resist. He carefully used his tongue to trace her lips, seriously and lightly kissing her. Even for a moment he didn't want to separate. They held each other's hands and helped each other in times of need. Only now did he understand how wonderful it was to kiss someone. The tips of their noses were touching, their skin was touching, and their lips were touching. It was as if they wanted to ignite the lust that he had deliberately hidden in the bottom of his heart. Yun Shishir let him kiss her. After so many times of training, she knew how to respond to his kiss. The tip of her small tongue licked his lips gently and quickly retracted. Like a naughty kitten, she licked him as if she was expressing her goodwill. Muyaja enjoyed her careful response. Hence, when she licked his lips again, he quickly sucked on it and took the opportunity to pry open her lips. He penetrated deeply and gently swept through every inch of her lips and teeth. Her orchid scent instantly hit him in the face. It smelled so good. For the past few days he had been with her. They used the same brand of toothpaste, shower gel, and shampoo. Chapter 748. He liked this feeling very much. He liked that every part of her body had his scent. Gradually he did not want to reject just a kiss. In the past few days in the hospital, he did not touch her in consideration of her injury. Even when he kissed her, it was just a light touch. He had not been intimate with her for a few days, so he missed her body. As Muyaja kissed her, he tentatively held her hand and led it to a certain part of his body that was glaring covetously at her. It was as if he was sending a secret signal. The burning sensation from her fingertips was so clear even though it was separated by clothes. Yun Shishir opened her eyes in shock, only to meet his deep and serene eyes. There was no need to hide the lust in his eyes. Hey you, Yun Shishir blushed, but she did not know what to say to him. She did not know what was in this man's mind. This man, he had just gotten off the plane and how energetic was he? Can't you think of something else other than this? Muyaja answered, no. Could this guy be any more self-righteous? Mommy? Xiao Yichen's anxious voice came from not far away. Yun Shishir and Muyaja were both startled. The voice came from the staircase and they immediately rushed over. When they reached the staircase on the second floor, they saw Xiao Yichen standing at the top of the stairs with Yun Tianyu in his arms. He was sweating profusely and looking anxious. When he saw them rushing over, his voice was filled with uneasiness. Mommy, little brother, I don't know what's wrong with him. He seems to be having trouble breathing. Yun Tianyu was carried in his arms. Yichen was taller, so Yun Tianyu was a head shorter than him. Being carried in his arms, Yun Tianyu looked so petite and boneless. He was so light as if he could be blown away by a gust of wind. Yun Shishir's heart skipped a beat. She saw Yun Tianyu curled up with his hands clutching his chest as if he were about to suffocate. His breathing was rapid as he gasped for air. His little face was abnormally red. Beads of sweat rolled down his face and dripped onto Xiao Yichen's hands. Xiao Yichen lowered his head to look at Yun Tianyu's pained expression. His face was filled with guilt, and his eyes were filled with anxiety as if he were about to cry. Mommy, Yu let out a weak cry for help. Every time he said a word he would have to gasp for air. Stunned, he could not form a complete sentence. Muyaja furrowed his brows. This was his first time seeing the child acting up. It was excruciating. Ordinary people couldn't imagine such pain. It must be very uncomfortable to be unable to breathe. This child, Mu Yaja was shocked. He suddenly recalled the doctor's words when Yun Tianyu was hospitalized that day. This child's condition is very bad. Because he was born prematurely and didn't absorb enough nutrients from his mother's body, his body is already weak. The best way is to undergo surgery. However, the child is still young and surgery is very risky, so it's not recommended. Currently, we can only use medication to stabilize his condition. Hyperventilation was a physiological reaction caused by acute anxiety. When it flared up, the patient would feel his heart beat faster, palpitations and sweating. The patient could not feel his breathing, so he breathed faster. As a result, carbon dioxide was excreted and the concentration was too low, resulting in respiratory alkalosis and other symptoms. Chapter 749. Yun Shishir immediately went downstairs and walked to Xiao Yichen's side. With just one look, she was certain that his old illness was acting up again. Bring him to the bed first. Lie flat or help him sit up. Dyspnea syndrome, when acting up, would cause suffocation and pain in the heart, causing the person to subconsciously curl up. However, the more this happened, the harder it was for the person to breathe. The person had to lie flat or sit up to relieve the symptoms. Yun Shishir wanted to take Yu from Xiao Yichen's arms, but the butler, Uncle Qiao, who was dressed in a tuxedo, quickly stepped forward and respectfully said, "Madam, let me do it." Madam? This title caught her off guard, but she could not care less now. The butler brought the child to the bedroom. Yun Shishir found a paper bag, hugged Yu's shoulders and passed it to him. "Yu, come." This? She was so anxious that she could not speak. Yun Tianyu still had a sliver of hope left. He took the paper bag from Yun Shishir's hands, covered his mouth and nose and took deep breaths. Mu Yaja pursed his lips and looked helplessly at Yu's pained expression. He asked, "Is he suffering from an old illness?" Xiao Yichen was guarding Yu by the bed. When he heard Mu Yaja's question, he immediately turned to Yun Shishir with a puzzled look. "Mommy, what's wrong with little brother?" Yun Shishir calmed herself down and immediately comforted him. "It's all right, Xiao Yichen. Don't worry." With that, she looked up at Mu Yaja. "Where's Yu's luggage?" "I brought medicine and the medicine bottles are in his luggage." Before Mu Yaja could speak, the butler, Uncle Qiao, stepped forward and said, "The luggage has been put away. I'll go get it right away." "Okay. Sorry to trouble you." "You're welcome, madam," the butler said politely. Then he immediately turned around and left the room to collect the luggage. Although Yun Shishir comforted him, Xiao Yichen still felt guilty. He didn't know that his younger brother had such a serious illness. I wonder what kind of chronic illness it is? At first they were playing volleyball. At first, Yu was a little unhappy about playing with him. However, Xiao Yichen was afraid that he would disturb his daddy and mommy's private time, so he immediately provoked him. Yu was naturally unconvinced and played a few rounds with him. In terms of sports, Xiao Yichen was much more talented than Yu. Yu was naturally no match for Yu. However, Xiao Yichen went easy on him. He tried his best to maintain a tie between the two of them. Gradually, Yu realized that Xiao Yichen was obviously going easy on him. He was unconvinced and his competitive spirit was aroused. Usually, he didn't have many friends and rarely played with other children. He didn't have any friends his age. It was his first time playing a game, but Yu was smart and quickly familiarized himself with the rules. The sun was a little hot. Especially since it was near the beach, the sun was unobstructed. The sun shone directly on the skin. Although Xiao Yichen had applied sunscreen on Yu, after a few rounds he felt his heartbeat accelerate and his stamina gradually weaken. The gap between the two of them gradually widened. Yu was unwilling to give up. "It's the last round. Whoever wins can sleep with mommy tonight," Xiao Yichen suddenly said. Yu looked unhappy and said, "No. Are you afraid of losing?" Yu said angrily, "It doesn't matter if you win or not, you can't sleep with mommy. Mommy is mine. Then, mommy will sleep with daddy." Chapter 750. Then, mommy will sleep with daddy. No way. Yu's face suddenly turned ugly. Why not? Because? He pursed his lips in anger, but he did not know how to explain himself. Gritting his teeth, he suddenly tiptoed and sent the ball out with all his strength. The ball flew high over the net and deviated from its trajectory. Xiao Yichen returned with the ball, only to see Yu in a strange position on the beach. He initially thought that this guy must have not exercised for a long time, so his stamina was weak. However, when he saw Yu's pained expression, Xiao Yichen panicked. He saw him clutching his chest with both hands. His handsome features were contorted in pain, and he looked as if he could not breathe. He was in extreme pain. His body was curled up like a small shrimp with his back arched. Xiao Yichen hurriedly carried him and nervously entered the castle. Yu Yu's eyes were tightly shut as he held a paper bag over his mouth and nose. Yun Shishir guided his breathing rhythm from the side. Yu Yu obediently followed her lead and adjusted his breathing. Finally, his symptoms eased a little. Uncle Qiao brought the luggage over. Yun Shishir took out a bunch of bottles and jars from the luggage. Xiao Yichen was dumbfounded at the sight. Could it be that all these medicines were taken by his younger brother? Was he sick? But Xiao Yichen's gaze fell on the bed. He looked at Yun Tianyou's face, which was gradually regaining color. He clearly looked healthy and did not look like a sick child. Yun Shishir took out a small medicine bottle and put in a few first aid pills. She walked to Yu Yu's side and placed the medicine in his inner pocket. Yu Yu, on the other hand, looked calm. It was as if carrying first aid pills was a normal thing. Don't you need to take them now? Mu Yaja knitted his brows. His symptoms have eased, so there's no need. These medicines are for emergencies when I'm not around, Yun Shishir explained. Is it that serious? It's already much better than when he was young. Yun Shishir smiled and looked at Yu Yu, who was holding the paper bag and taking deep breaths. When he was young, he had frequent relapses. Now his symptoms have eased a lot. The doctor said that it's best if he can undergo surgery now, but Yu Yu is still too young. There's a high risk of surgery now, so we can only control. Mommy, why is little brother like this? Little Yichen, who was beside her, gently tugged at the corner of her clothes. He was determined to find out what had happened so that he could be more careful in the future. She felt that her younger brother was as fragile as glass. If she didn't take care of him carefully, he would shatter. Is it because I pulled him to play volleyball? So, it's not that. Yun Shishir squatted slightly and held Xiao Yichen's shoulders. It has nothing to do with playing volleyball, and it's not Xiao Yichen's fault, so baby, don't blame yourself. If I didn't play volleyball with him, perhaps things wouldn't have turned out this way. Xiao Yichen looked at Yu Yu with a worried face. Yun Shishir explained in the simplest terms. His illness is related to his weak heart. If he exercises vigorously, it will easily cause his heart to palpitate. If he's agitated, it will lead to respiratory problems. Agitated? Chapter 751. Could it be that he was too excited when he was playing? I understand. I'll be more careful next time and prevent something like this from happening again. As Xiao Yichen spoke, the corners of his mouth turned up slightly. He promised Yun Shishir, Mommy, don't worry. I'll take good care of little brother in the future. Yu Yu leaned against the bed and held the paper bag in his hands. He tried to calm his breathing, but his gaze slowly fell on Xiao Yichen's determined face. I'll take good care of little brother in the future. Although his voice was young and tender, his words were powerful and reliable. They struck a chord in Yichen's heart. Yu Yu's brows relaxed slightly and his eyes curved slightly. His pink lips, which were covered by the paper bag, curved slightly. This older brother of his seemed to be very reliable. He wasn't as stupid as he had thought. Surprisingly, it made him feel reliable. Yu Yu's symptoms quickly stabilized. Xiao Yichen immediately walked to the bed, held his shoulders and helped him lie down. He did not tuck the blanket properly for him. Yun Shishir walked forward and took a good look at him. Seeing that he had recovered, she was no longer worried. Are you tired from playing? She pinched his little face. Look at you. You're sweating all over. Did you have fun? Xiao Yichen looked at him expectantly. Yu Yu glanced at Xiao Yichen lightly. His cheeks turned red, but he pretended to be cold and said, Yeah, it was okay. I was a little bored. A little bored? Xiao Yichen's eyes drooped in disappointment. He pouted pitifully. If you're tired, take a nap. When you wake up, Mommy will give you a bath. Okay. Mommy, will you accompany me? Yu Yu smiled with his eyes narrowed. Mommy is going to pack my luggage. I'll come back later. Let your brother accompany you first, okay? Yun Shishir coaxed him. The smile in Yu Yu's eyes instantly dimmed. He glanced sideways at Xiao Yichen, who was lying on the edge of the bed like a puppy wagging its tail and looking at him with bright eyes. All right. Yu Yu raised her eyebrows and pulled up the blanket to cover half of her face. Only her eyes were exposed. Disappointment was evident in her eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. This time he did not refuse. Xiao Yichen's eyes lit up. Even though Yu Yu did not show any signs of intimacy, Xiao Yichen felt that his tsundra little brother was trying to get close to him. Mommy, I will take good care of little brother. Okay, call me if you need anything. Yun Shishir wanted to give the two brothers more opportunities to get along. 6 years of time was like a great flood, diluting the strong feelings between the brothers. Now she hoped that the two children could get closer and at least not be so distant. Xiao Yichen obviously liked Yu a lot, but Yu was a little cold toward Xiao Yichen. After Yun Shishir left the room, Yun Tianyu covered his face with the blanket and planned to take an afternoon nap. Just as he was about to fall asleep, Xiao Yichen lifted the blanket covering his face. "You can't sleep under the blanket. It's not good for your health." Yu, Xiao Yichen's handsome face enlarged in front of him. "Little brother, are you sleepy?" "I'm sleepy," Yu answered nonchalantly and then turned around to face him with his back. His attitude was aloof. Chapter 752. "I don't want to." Yu closed his eyes. Xiao Yichen suddenly whispered into his ear, "Little brother, your eyelashes are so long. This guy is so talkative." Yu was annoyed and turned over. Xiao Yichen was like a kitten again. He quietly lay in front of him and carefully observed Yu's face with his eyes closed. His eyelashes were long, thick and curly like the beautiful feathers of a black phoenix. His eyes were the same as his own. They were the classic peach blossom eyes with deep eyeliner and upturned corners. The corners of his eyes were charming pink. His nose bridge was high and his lips were thin like cherry blossoms. What was different from his was that this guy's skin was really tender. It was snow white and translucent, tender and supple as white as porcelain. Xiao Yichen couldn't help but reach out to pinch his face. Yu suddenly felt a perverted hand pinching his face and suddenly opened his eyes. He met Xiao Yichen's surprised eyes. "Wow, your skin is so soft like water. It's so soft and smooth." Yu gritted his teeth. "Mu Yichen, here." Xiao Yichen instinctively stood up in a straight military posture. His majestic voice reverberated throughout the room. Yu was dumbfounded by his loud and clear "here." Xiao Yichen realized his embarrassment and touched the back of his head embarrassedly. "Oh, I've been training in the military since I was young. When you called my name I subconsciously saluted." Yu's eyebrows twitched. "Can't you be quiet for a while?" Okay. Xiao Yichen looked at him lovingly. Yu felt uncomfortable under his gaze and immediately drew a line. "I'm warning you. Keep a distance of 5 meters from me." Xiao Yichen yawned and nodded. He really took 3 steps back and maintained a distance of 5 meters. "Don't come any closer to me." Yu warned him again. Xiao Yichen supported his head and nodded. Yu crawled under the blanket. Before he closed his eyes he didn't forget to turn around and look at him. Xiao Yichen knew his place. He sat cross-legged on the floor and supported his chin with one hand. His eyelids were drooping. He was obviously tired. "I'm so tired." He didn't take a nap in the afternoon so he was feeling a little. "Little brother, I'm sleepy." "Little brother, are you asleep?" A muffled voice came from under the blanket. "Why are you talking when you're asleep?" "Shut up." Yu snorted. Xiao Yichen pursed his lips and hesitated for a while. Then he pouted and said, "I'm sleepy too. Can I sleep next to you?" There was no reply for a while. He stood up and saw that Yu was already asleep. He tiptoed to the side of the bed and peeked at him again. He saw that Yu's eyes were tightly shut and he was covered with a thin blanket. It seemed that he was really asleep. Xiao Yichen bit his lip and hung one leg on the bed. When he saw that there was no reaction from the blanket, he carefully laid down on the bed. Xiao Yichen's head gently rested on the pillow. He closed his eyes and quickly fell asleep. Yu suddenly opened his eyes slowly. He looked at Xiao Yichen's sleeping face and sighed softly. This annoying guy is finally quiet. But isn't he going to cover himself with a blanket? Although the sun was hot outside, the room was air-conditioned. If he didn't cover himself with a blanket, he would easily catch a cold. However, there was only one blanket in the room. Chapter 753. I don't want to share a blanket with this annoying fellow. He deserves to catch a cold if he doesn't hug his blanket to sleep. With this thought in mind, he calmly turned over and went back to sleep. Xiao Yichen suddenly turned over. Yu, who was about to fall asleep, was startled awake by his action. He turned around and saw little Yichen lying on his back facing him with his arms hugging his shoulders. Apparently he felt cold in his sleep. Yu pursed his lips and frowned slightly. With a conflicted expression, he slowly lifted a corner of the blanket. In the afternoon, Yun Shishir finished packing her luggage. Mu Yaja leaned against the door and suddenly thought of something. He asked, "Who usually cleans the room at home?" "The house is too big, so I hired a cleaning lady." "What about before you moved? Weren't you renting a house before this?" "Yes. According to the duty schedule, Yu and I took turns to clean." At this point, Yun Shishir suddenly felt a little guilty. Most of the time, Yu is the one cleaning. Mu Yaja narrowed his eyes dangerously. You actually made my son do manual labor? What? Why are you looking at me like that? Yun Shirshir protested unhappily. What do you mean by making you do manual labor? You're looking at me as if I'm abusing a child. Isn't that the case? Mu Yaja walked into the room and sat on the bed. He listed out her crimes one by one. Have you ever seen a 6-year-old with the culinary skills of a 5-star chef? Have you ever seen a 6-year-old with the ability to clean a room alone? Have you ever seen a 6-year-old with the ability to? She had a net worth of hundreds of millions at the age of 6. Yun Shirshir did not know about this. He almost let it slip. Mr. Mu Yu is already 7 years old. He just had his birthday, Yun Shirshir reminded him. Is there any difference? No. You're a year older, so you're more sensible. He's so mature, Mu Yaja reminded her. At least I've never seen a child as mature as him. Yun Shirshir felt guilty for a few seconds and nodded silently. This child was indeed too precocious. Mu Yaja asked suspiciously, how did you educate your child? It was really too amazing. The last time he tasted Yu's cooking, if Yun Shirshir hadn't admitted it herself, he wouldn't have believed that such exquisite culinary skills came from a child. Every piece of meat was extremely light and thin and stir-fried with flavor. Every stalk of vegetable was cut evenly, and each stalk was well-proportioned. How did Yun Shirshir educate her children at home? I didn't really educate him. I just let him develop naturally, Yun Shirshir said calmly. Natural development, my ass. Natural development can develop to this extent? Mu Yaja obviously did not believe it. What else can I do? I didn't even sign him up for an extracurricular class. He usually stays at home to play computer games, read magazines, and do homework. Yun Shirshir said innocently. Mu Yaja glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. Yes. On the surface he seemed to be playing computer games, but in fact he was hacking someone's security system. On the surface he seemed to be reading magazines, but in fact he was studying the financial situation of other companies. On the surface he was doing exercises, but those exercises were all advanced mathematics exercises. Besides, my son was born to be a little warm-hearted. He knows how to understand me, so I don't need to teach him. He's self-taught. Isn't that a good thing? Yun Shirshir spread out her hands and looked very proud. Chapter 754. Mu Yaja furrowed his eyebrows. If you were overseas, you would definitely be reported for child abuse. What? Yun Shirshir retorted. When did I abuse you? Do you think I'm like you? What about me? Xiao Yichen was still so young and you threw him into the military for training. How can there be such a cruel father like you? When I was 3 years old, I was thrown into the military to observe the training, Mu Yaja said slowly. Yun Shirshir was completely stunned. What? 3 years old? A 3-year-old child can't even speak coherently. That's you. When I was 3 years old, I could already memorize 100 ancient poems. What's so great about that? Yun Shirshir felt that her intelligence was being looked down upon. She immediately protested, don't make personal attacks. Stupid woman, I suspect that you're dragging the whole family down. Mu Yaja suddenly looked at her face and said seriously. Yun Shirshir was stunned. What do you mean? You pulled down the average IQ of the whole family. Yun Shirshir was silent. I admit that I'm not as smart as you, but I still graduated with honors from my undergraduate degree, okay? We're talking about IQ, not studying. Yun Shirshir raised her hands in surrender. Okay. I'm really sorry that I'm dragging you down. But I'm holding up the average appearance of the whole family, okay? As she said that, she blinked her eyes, and her pair of peach blossom eyes were filled with a smug smile. Mu Yaja stood up and walked in front of her. He reached out to hold her hand and pulled her into his embrace. He lowered his head and reached out to brush her hair aside. He saw that she was wearing the stars in the sky pendant that he had given her that day. She was also wearing the meteor pendant around her neck. He smiled satisfactorily and kissed her face gently. Yun Shirshir was stunned for a moment. Then she looked up and kissed him back gently. He was so tall that she had to stand on her tiptoes. A light peck landed on his lips. Young master, young madam, we caught a lot of seafood on the boat this afternoon. Do you have any plans tonight? Yun Shirshir raised her eyebrows. It's rare for us to come to the beach. Let's have a picnic tonight. How about it? When Yun Shirshir walked into the room, the 2 children were still asleep. But when she walked to the bed, she saw Xiao Yichen and Yu sleeping face to face. Xiao Yichen's arm was very close. Zhao Zi's arm was gently on Yu's shoulder, while Zhao Ziyu's little face was buried his face. You, being, as his sleeping position. The two little guys should share a blanket. After a few calls, the boy slowly woke up. Mommy, wake up. It's getting dark. Let's get ready for dinner. Yu rubbed his sleepy eyes. Xiao Yichen woke up next to him. He opened his eyes and saw Yun Shirshir. He smiled. Mommy. Xiao Yichen, hurry up and get ready with your brother. Come down for dinner. Xiao Yichen smiled and nodded. Okay. Mommy is waiting for you downstairs. Yun Shirshir left the room as she spoke. Yu immediately got out of bed and went to the bathroom to take a shower. Xiao Yichen sat up on the bed and looked at the blanket on his body. When he regained consciousness, he couldn't help but feel suspicious. He remembered that he didn't have a blanket on him when he went to bed. Could it be? Chapter 755. Yun Tianyu expressionlessly answered, No. Isn't that so? You want me to cover you with a blanket? Do you think that's possible? Yun Tianyu retorted with a look of disdain. Xiao Yichen's eyes betrayed his disappointment and surprise. Then, the blanket on me, you snatched it from me, Yun Tianyu coldly replied as he dried his hair with a towel. Xiao Yichen quickly explained, I don't have the habit of snatching blankets when I sleep. Yun Tianyu gave him a side glance with disdain and snorted. You talk in your sleep, it's so noisy. Other than talking in my sleep, I don't have any other bad habits. Xiao Yichen defended himself, feeling wronged. He usually did not talk in his sleep. Kicking the blanket doesn't count? Yu frowned as he retorted. Oh. Xiao Yichen's eyes widened in surprise. I even kicked the blanket? You even drooled when you were sleeping. Yun Tianyu's eyes suddenly became more disdainful. I even took a picture, do you want to see it? Xiao Yichen pouted and pointed at him in grievance. You actually took a picture of me secretly? Yun Tianyu's lips curled into a sinister smile. What? Yes, I did. What can you do about it? Xiao Yichen looked at his smile and for a moment had an illusion. Yun Tianyu's sinister smile overlapped with Mu Yaja's smile. They were really alike. Yu's smile was exactly the same as his daddy's. What a godlike genetic inheritance. What's wrong? Yun Tianyu asked curiously as he touched his face when he saw him staring at him in a daze. Nothing. Xiao Yichen suddenly shook his head in silence. Yu was not used to the fact that Xiao Yichen had stopped pestering him. He thought that he had gone too far and was about to comfort him when Xiao Yichen suddenly pounced on him. He stretched out his claws and tore the towel off his body. Xiao Yichen's sudden attack caught the boy off guard. By the time he reacted, the towel he was using to cover his private parts had already been ripped off by Xiao Yichen. Ah! If you dare to secretly take pictures of me, I will secretly take pictures of you too. Little Yichen held his towel with one hand as he proudly declared. Idiot! Idiot! Give me back the towel. Yun Tianyu flew into a rage out of humiliation and quickly reached out to block Xiao Yichen, only to be mercilessly mocked by him. Wow, little brother, your little Yu is really small. It's a mini and cute type. Yun Tianyu's face instantly turned red. It's really small. Shame on you. Yu retorted indignantly, is yours really big? Bigger than yours, bigger than yours. Xiao Yichen made a funny face and quickly took out his phone from his trouser pocket. Come, let's take a picture. Get lost. Yun Tianyu casually picked up something next to him and threw it at him. Xiao Yichen nimbly dodged it. He was as agile as a leopard and his footsteps were as vigorous as the wind. Kacha. Kacha. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yichen had already taken 3 pictures. Yun Tianyu gritted his teeth. His impression of this guy had changed and he thought that he was a reliable brother. Who would have thought, that pervert? He actually took nude pictures of him. Yu, be good, don't be shy. We are brothers, we should be honest with each other. Yu angrily said, stop taking pictures. Chapter 756. Mu Yichen, don't you dare take another photo. Yun Tianyu covered his private area with his hands and glared at him in shame and anger. Mu Yichen did not take his threat to heart at all. It was as if he was not affected at all. He waved the phone in his hand and said smugly, I'll take a photo, I'll take a photo. I'm not like you who secretly took photos. I'm taking them openly. What can you do to me? What do you think? Yu's anger rose when she saw how he dared to show off in front of her. Mu Yichen was not afraid of Yu's anger as he continued to jump around and agitate her. Yu is really small. How can you be so tiny? Mu Yichen covered his mouth and snickered at him. Yun Tianyu snorted indignantly. A cold sneer appeared on his face as he slowly retorted, You said that mine is small but yours isn't that big either. Mine is definitely bigger than yours. Daddy's is big, so I'll definitely be like Daddy's when I grow up. Xiao Yichen put his hands on his waist as he spoke righteously. His words betrayed Mu Yaja completely. At this moment, Mu Yaja, who was strolling on the beach with Yun Shirshir, sneezed gracefully. I don't believe you. You can't be trusted at all. You're obviously very small, yet you're pretending to be big. You're obviously bragging. Yu Yu's pink lips twitched as he shot a disdainful look at a certain part of his body. His hands were too small and could not cover his private area. She decided not to be pretentious and let go of them. With her hands on her waist, she looked at him coldly. The mockery in her eyes could not be more obvious. Mu Yichen's expression changed slightly. He was hurt by Yu Yu's merciless sarcasm and doubt. His face turned red as he said, I'm not lying to you. Mine is bigger than yours. You're obviously jealous of me, so then show it to me too. If you don't show it to me, how would I know if it's big? Yu Yu pointed at him and smiled coldly. Even if it was a real gun, it had to be shown. Everything he said was a big lie. Mu Yichen was, after all, naive and innocent. He was goaded by his father's words. All right, I'll show it to you. Who's afraid of you? He walked up to him indignantly. Just as he was about to unzip his pants, Yu Yu let out a sinister laugh and reached out his claws. Imitating his older brother's earlier method, he pulled down his pants in one swift motion. Ah! Mu Yichen was shocked by his actions and took half a step back. However, he tripped over his pants and fell to the ground. Ouch! Tears welled up in his eyes as he fell to the ground. Soon his private area was exposed to the air. Yun Tianyu glanced at it with disdain in his eyes. He wondered how big his private area was. It was not much bigger than his, so what was there to be proud of? This time, it was Mu Yichen's turn to be bashful. With a blushing face, he tightly covered his private part and bit his lower lip hard. His watery eyes were full of innocence and accusation. How dare you take off my pants? We are brothers. We should be honest with each other. Yun Tianyu snorted and repeated what he had just said as a form of rebuttal. Mu Yichen wanted to get up from the ground at once, but Yun Tianyu quickly went forward and sat on him. Chapter 757. Yun Tianyu snatched the phone from his hand and took a series of close-up shots of his mini Xiao Yichen. Xiao Yichen blushed. Don't take photos. Don't take photos. You're shy now, huh? You were so excited to take photos just now. Yun Tianyu clicked his tongue again and mocked. You still dare to say that yours is big. The little lotus is just showing its tip. The little lotus is just showing its tip. This analogy was perfect. Zoe, what fried dumplings? Xiao Yichen was baffled by his sudden analogy. Idiot, such a profound language philosophy is definitely not something a fool like you can understand. Yu Yu smiled and took a few more close-up shots before he stood up in satisfaction. How many photos did you take just now? 9 consecutive. Yun Tianyu gracefully put on his shirt while holding his phone with one hand. He kept scrolling through the close-ups he had just taken. In comparison, Mu Yichen's penis was indeed a little bigger than his. Still, it was only a little bigger. He still had room for growth. Perhaps he would be able to make a comeback in the future. Give me back my phone. Xiao Yichen pulled up his pants and snatched it from Yun Tianyu's hand. Yun Tianyu pressed the send button and sent those photos to his cloud drive. He saved them and then deleted all the photos Xiao Yichen had taken of him secretly. The whole process took less than 10 seconds. His fingers flew across the screen to confirm that all the photos had been deleted. He then generously threw the phone back to him. Here, I'm returning it to you. Xiao Yichen immediately flipped through the photo album on the phone, only to find that he had secretly taken several nude photos of Yu Yu. They were all... Oh, damn. They were all gone. Mu Yichen sorrowfully asked, What did you do? Nothing. Then why are those photos gone? Yun Tianyu nonchalantly replied, Oh, I deleted it. Yu, you're so bad. Mu Yichen complained. It wasn't easy to secretly take photos, but they were all deleted. His heart ached. Yu Yu elegantly put on his suit shorts and snorted, but he did not comment. You're too stupid. How can you blame me for being bad? How dare you delete my photos? Yun Tianyu turned around, his lips curling into a playful smile. I must remind you that you were the one who took photos of me first. I'm just legally defending my right to privacy. Although I am still young, but to my secretus for privacy, I still have the right to protect it. Understand? What do you mean by violation of privacy? You took pictures of me without my permission. That's an invasion of my privacy. Mu Yichen stared at him blankly. He felt that his pompous words actually sounded quite reasonable. Mu Yichen nodded his head in understanding. Belatedly he came to a realization. Then you. Why did you secretly take photos of me? That's because you're not as good as others. If you have the ability to attack me, delete those photos. Yun Tianyu spread his hands. To Mu Yichen, the expression on his face was extremely repulsive. You cheated. Mu Yichen was at a loss for words. He felt that his younger brother was too repulsive. Yun Tianyu smiled provocatively. Idiot, idiot. You. Mu Yichen was even more vexed and pounced on him. Yu was caught off guard and fell to the ground. The movement was so loud that he bumped into the luggage on the table. Chapter 758. Mu Yichen was alarmed by the sound of something falling. He immediately looked up and saw that it was the present he had given to Yu Yu. Out of curiosity, he let go of Yu Yu and took the small and exquisite gift box in his hand. The packaging was still there, and even the ribbon tied into a bow was still there. There were some signs of wear and tear on the outer packaging, which seemed to be frequently used. Why was it not opened yet? He had put in a lot of effort to pick this present, and he only hoped that he would like it. However, did his younger brother not like his present? He was not even interested in opening it to take a look. Yu got up from the ground and brushed the dust off his clothes. He looked up and saw from the corner of his eye that Mu Yichen was holding the gift box in his hand. His brows were furrowed and his eyes were deep in thought. When his gaze fell on the gift box again, he strangely blushed and immediately walked forward. Give it back to me. Yu reached out to grab it, but he caught nothing but air. Mu Yichen avoided his hand and looked up. His gaze fell on his face with a conflicted look. This is my present for you. Yes. Yu pinched the corner of his shirt and nervously pursed his lips. He pretended to be cool and arrogant as he raised his chin. His little pink lips were pressed into a tight line. Why didn't you open it? Mu Yichen asked curiously. Yun Tianyu furrowed his brows and stammered for a while. He suddenly glared at him and snapped, Why are you asking about this? It's none of your business. Xiao Yichen was already used to his cold and arrogant attitude. He could not help feeling disappointed when he saw that his carefully chosen present did not seem to be favored by his younger brother. I took a long time to choose this present. And then, Yu Yu's heart seemed to be stabbed when he saw the loneliness on his face. His attitude softened a little. And then I hope that you will like it. Xiao Yichen raised a brow and suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. You don't seem to like it though? Is it because you don't like this gift? Mu Yichen's face fell as he said sadly. Yu Yu hesitated for a while and then said hesitantly, No. But if you don't like it then forget it. As Mu Yichen spoke, he put the gift into his trouser pocket with an aggrieved expression. Only then did Yun Tianyu panic. He rushed up to him and gripped his wrist tightly. With a look of displeasure he asked, What are you doing? Mu Yichen saw that he suddenly became nervous. For a moment his face was blank. Didn't you not like this gift? Even if I don't like it, you can't take it away. He frowned and said righteously, You gave it to me, didn't you? Yes, Mu Yichen said. At least, let me see what it is so that I can decide whether I like it or not, he said bashfully. I haven't opened it yet. This was because for some reason he could not bear to open it. Mu Yichen felt that his younger brother was very contradictory. One moment he did not like it and the next moment he wanted to see it before deciding whether he liked it or not. Did he like it or not, then? Anyway, I don't care. You gave it to me so it's mine. How can you take it back? Yun Tianyu snatched it from his hand. Chapter 759. Could it be that he couldn't bear to open the gift? Even though he didn't like it on the surface, he actually liked it a lot, right? Was it because he felt awkward and was shy to say it? That must be it. Hence, Mu Yichen snatched the gift back from his hands and pretended to be upset. You obviously don't like it, so don't force yourself. Yu was stunned. His lips twitched, but he couldn't form a coherent sentence. He obviously liked it a lot. Other than his mother, he had never received anyone else's gift. The packaging was so exquisite, serious, and meticulous. He always carried it with him. There were a few times when he wanted to open it, but he couldn't bear to. He didn't know why he couldn't bear to open it. He just couldn't bear to destroy such a beautiful packaging. It was obvious that the gift was handmade. Every detail, down to the trimming, was meticulous. Mu Yichen looked at him expectantly. There was a conflicted and complicated expression on his face. Say it. If you like it, just say it. Why did he always hide the truth in his heart and not say it out loud? He obviously liked his gift. He could see it in his eyes. Why didn't he say it? Who did he inherit such an awkward personality from? Under Mu Yichen's expectant gaze, Yu took a deep breath. He opened his mouth, but only a few words came out. Then, forget it. Then he glanced coldly at Mui Chen. I've never seen someone like you. You've already given the gift to someone else, but you still want to snatch it back. Yu turned around and put on his pants, ignoring him. Mui Chen's lips twitched. This brother of his was extraordinarily awkward. Suddenly, Mui Chen sighed and walked to his side. He handed the gift to him. Here, open it and take a look. I'm not opening it. Open it. I'm not opening it. Why do you care? If you're not opening it, I'll open it for you. Mui Chen said and was about to open the gift. Yu saw this and immediately stopped him. Wait. What happened? Forget it. Yu pursed her lips. I'll open it. When Mui Chen heard this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. This guy is really fun to play with. Yu saw him covering his mouth and laughing. She blushed and said angrily, Hey, what are you laughing at? I'm laughing at your cuteness. He's seriously ill. Yu snorted coldly. Then, she pinched the ribbon between her fingers and hesitated for a moment. Finally, she pursed her lips and pulled the ribbon away. He slowly tore off the packaging with an expectant and devout expression on his face. Every step he took was very careful. Even if it was a cheap packaging paper, he was reluctant to tear it. Mui Chen looked at the serious and cautious expression on his face and felt a little touched. He really cherished this gift. It could be seen from his careful movements. His heart felt warm, as if a warm current was flowing into it. At this moment, Yu had already opened the packaging. A violet crystal bracelet lay quietly in the box. He opened his eyes slightly in surprise. The mysterious and beautiful violet crystal shone with an incomparably moving luster. Coupled with the unique design, it was very beautiful. A bracelet. Yu suddenly frowned. She felt that this bracelet was very familiar. She seemed to realize what it was and suddenly lowered her head. Her gaze fell on Mui Chen's wrist. A crystal anklet was tied around his small wrist, and it was of the same design as the one on the table. Chapter 760. Did you choose it? Yu narrowed his eyes and asked suspiciously. Mui Chen may look dumb, but his taste was surprisingly good. Mui Chen was slightly displeased with the suspicion in his eyes. Why are you looking at me like that? He looked at him as though he was an idiot. You haven't answered me. Do you like it? Mui Chen asked relentlessly. Yu ignored his question and carefully took out the bracelet to study it. How do I put on this bracelet? Let me put it on for you. Mui Chen immediately volunteered and took the bracelet from him. Give me your hand. Okay. Yu stretched out his hand and revealed his fair wrist. Mui Chen gently put the bracelet on Yu's wrist. It seemed a little too big. More importantly, Yu was too skinny and his wrist was smaller than his. He raised his eyebrows and tightened the bracelet. Is it tight? It's not tight. It's just right. You're too skinny. How can you be so skinny? Mui Chen looked up at him. You don't eat meat usually, right? I do. You don't eat much? Yu said, No. I'm a carnivore. I'm a carnivore. He liked to eat meat. Sometimes when he was in a good mood he would fry steak. The steak he cooked tasted better than the ones in the restaurant. Then why don't you put on weight? Mui Chen was a little defeated. Mommy used to pay attention to my nutrition. She said that I was growing and had a customized meal every day. But no matter how much I ate, I couldn't put on weight. Yu recalled the past. When he stood on the scale and the needle did not move for long, Yun Shirshir looked defeated. It seems that I have this body type. I can't put on weight. Mui Chen blinked his eyes in amazement. Then why are you so skinny? I feel like I can pick you up with one hand. Yu looked at him speechlessly. You're really all brawn and no brains. Nonsense. How am I simple-minded? Then? Yu raised his chin and threw out an arithmetic question. What is 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10? You have 10 seconds to figure it out. This was a simple math problem. Basically, he could calculate the exact answer in his mind after the teacher had finished reciting the question. However, Xiaoyichen had no choice but to lower his head and seriously count one finger at a time. Yu looked at him, speechless for a long time. Don't calculate it. It's not right to let you calculate my toes. Yu's disdainful words were like 1,000 arrows piercing through Mui Chen's heart. I'm not in the right state today. I can't calculate well. Usually, this kind of math problem is very easy for me. Yu was completely speechless. Why did he need to be in the right state to solve such a simple math problem? Suddenly, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door. Then a servant knocked on the door gently. Young masters, have you changed your clothes? Mui Chen frowned and asked, What's the matter? We're having a picnic at the beach tonight. Everything is ready. We're just waiting for you two young masters. Got it? Mu Chen turned around and said, let's go downstairs. Okay. Yu nodded and took the lead to walk to the door. Mu Chen suddenly thought of something. He hesitated for a while, then caught up with him and held his hand. Chapter 761. What are you doing? Yu stopped in his tracks helplessly. Why is this Mu Chen so clingy? He's just like my little tail. Mu Chen quickened his pace and stood in front of him, blocking his path. Lowering his head, he asked seriously, little brother, what do you think of this? Yu Yu glanced at him. His nonsensical question made it hard for anyone to fathom what he was trying to ask. Mu Chen pursed his lips and asked seriously, Daddy, Mommy, do you think it's good for me to live with you in the same house? A family of 4 living together. Yu was stunned. He did not expect him to ask such a question and did not reply for a while. Isn't it good? Feeling nervous all of a sudden, Mu Chen mumbled incoherently, I like this a lot. I like Mommy and you too. I want the whole family to live together. That way home will feel like home, won't it? It was a very heartwarming feeling. Being able to live with his daddy, mommy, and little brother made him feel the warmth of a family. In the Mu family he only felt a bone-chilling coldness and indifference. He could not feel the warmth that a family should have, much less the warmth of intimacy. Whether it was Mu Wanru or Mu Sheng, he felt that they were exceptionally distant and unfamiliar to him. He did not even want to get close to them. Hence, since he was young he was a little reclusive. He did not like to talk or communicate with others. He would lock himself in the study room and immerse himself in his own world. Even though she was used to such a cold and cheerless home, she still had a persistent desire for the warmth of home in her heart. He wanted to have a family. Mu Chen looked seriously at Yu Yu's expression and saw the struggle in the little lad's eyes. It was a little complicated and conflicted. Are you afraid that I'll steal Mommy's love? Mu Chen asked tentatively. Seeing that the boy was silent, he immediately raised his palm and swore seriously, I swear that I won't steal Mommy from you. On the contrary, you'll have Daddy's love and my love. The 3 of us will dote on you. Hearing this, Yun Tianyu stared at him in shock. Mu Chen swore again, it's true. That's because you're my little brother and I'm your elder brother. I'll protect you and not let any harm come to you. If anyone dares to bully you, I'll definitely bully them back. Yun Tianyu was stunned for a while before he pursed his lips and laughed. Mu Chen looked a little embarrassed. What are you laughing about? You sound as if you're confessing. Yu could not help twitching his eyebrows. In the past, when a male colleague in Mommy's company was wooing Mommy, he had also said the same thing. Can't you be more serious? At least I'm serious. Mu Chen knitted his brows but could not bear to rebuke him. Yun Tianyu raised a brow and said, all right. I'll consider it. With that, he held the railing and walked down the stairs. Mu Chen chased after him. Only consider it? I'll seriously consider it. Why do you still need to consider it? Because. He lowered his gaze and bit his pink lips. I'm not used to having a daddy and an elder brother appearing out of nowhere. Why? Mu Chen stood behind him and looked at him with a defeated look. He felt inexplicably helpless. Chapter 762. Yu looked at him speechlessly. Mu Chen, you look as if you've just fallen out of love. Mu Chen retorted, what do you mean? I'm clearly sad. All right. I'll seriously consider it. Yu felt helpless and could only coax him. Seriously, he was clearly his older brother, yet he still needed to coax him like a younger brother. Who was the older brother and who was the younger brother? Really? Really? Yeah. Mu Chen excitedly cheered himself up and regained his vigor in an instant. Yun Tianyu was dumbfounded by the sudden change in his attitude. What a child, changing his attitude at a whim just like the weather in June. Let's go. Mu Chen did not know what Yu was thinking to himself. He held his hand and walked toward the beach. On the beach's balcony, there was a long dining table with exquisite cutlery on it. At the side, an indescribably unpleasant smell was constantly emitting from the barbecue machine. It was pungent. Yu could not help covering his mouth and nose, curious about what the man was doing. Mu Yaja was placing the scallops one by one on the barbecue machine and leaning against it seriously. A few pieces of burnt seafood were thrown into a bucket at the side, giving off a burnt smell. Mu Chen covered his nose and walked over to take a look. Looking at the man's clumsy technique, he gave a look of disdain. Daddy, you're so lousy. Mu Yaja's face darkened. He pinched his son's face with his slender fingers and snorted. What did you say about Daddy? Lousy? No. Daddy, you heard wrong. Mu Yichen quickly broke free from his father's grip and fled to the side, rubbing his cheeks pitifully. Yu walked over to the barbecue machine and looked at the scallops that his father had placed on the barbecue rack. They were showing signs of being charred again, and he, too, had a look of disdain on his face. So stupid. Mu Yaja's face darkened. Yun Tianyu glanced at Mu Yichen's sullen face and for some reason recalled Mu Yichen's smug words, "Mine is definitely bigger than yours. Because daddies are very big. When I grow up, I will definitely be the same size as daddy. Because daddies are very big. When I grow up, I will definitely be the same as daddies. Because daddies was very big. Because daddies was very big." Yu's eyebrows twitched. Following that, he looked at a certain important part of the man's body with a profound gaze. Mu Yaja saw him staring at him, and his gaze was fixed on a certain part of his body. A strange expression appeared on his face. "What are you looking at?" "Oh." Yu quickly came back to her senses and pretended to be calm. "Nothing." "Mu Yaja?" His face was filled with question marks. He really could not figure out what was going on in this little guy's head. Mu Yichen saw Yu's profound gaze and followed his gaze to a certain part of Mu Yaja's body. Brothers are connected by heart. He instantly understood what he was looking at and thinking. Pfft. He covered his mouth and snickered. Mu Yaja was a little indignant. "What are you snickering about?" "Nothing." "Daddy, grill your scallops properly. They're burned again." Mu Yaja hurriedly looked at the scallops and smelled a burnt smell. Even his face revealed a look of disdain. She picked up the tongs and threw the scallop that was burnt to a crisp to the side. Yun Tianyu lamented from the side, "What a waste of resources. Daddy, you're too useless. Daddy, you're too useless." Chapter 763. Mu Yaja furrowed his brows and said, "Shut up. You can do it if you're so good." "Sure, my cooking will definitely be better than yours." Yu looked at him with undisguised disdain. Mu Yichen said quietly, "Daddy's cooking is not a matter of whether it tastes good or not. It's a matter of whether it can be eaten." "Yes." Yu pondered and said, "If I eat it, I'll definitely get food poisoning. Maybe I won't even have a chance to save him." "Yes." Yu was obviously convinced by Mu Yichen's words. The two lads echoed each other's words as they despised Mu Yaja to the core. The man's hand that was holding the pliers tightened, and the veins on the back of his hand popped out. His face turned even darker. "Do you know? Daddy's cooking is not edible at all," Xiao Yichen revealed. "He knows how to cook." "Yes. He cooked once and almost blew up the kitchen." Xiao Yichen shook his head helplessly inside. Yu glanced at Mu Yaja with even more disdain in her eyes. "If you don't even know how to cook, how are you going to feed my mommy?" Mu Yaja said. "Must a man know how to cook? A man who doesn't know how to cook wants to woo my mommy? If you want to win my mommy's heart, you have to win her stomach first." Yu pursed her lips and gave him a bad review. Xiao Yichen said, "Don't force my daddy. When he cooks, he's like a terrorist. Whatever he orders, he blows up. The kitchen is going to be destroyed by him." He was deeply hurt and tortured. He still remembered that day when he pestered his daddy to cook for him. In the end, he heard an explosion in the kitchen in less than 15 minutes. In an instant, a pungent smell wafted out of the kitchen. He walked closer to take a look and saw that the huge kitchen was filled with smoke. The entire wall was blackened. The kitchen table was a mess and the pots were burned with holes. It was like a nuclear reactor laboratory, terrifying to the extreme. From then on, he was left with a deep psychological shadow, and he no longer believed in Mu Yaja's culinary skills. Well, to be precise, there was no culinary skill to speak of. Yu said calmly, "He looks like a terrorist even if he doesn't cook. He's even more terrifying than terrorists. He's simply anti-human." Yu was deeply worried and said, "Let me do it. I'm worried that mommy will get food poisoning after eating your barbecued meat." Mu Yaja froze. "You have to know that my mommy is a delicate flower. Her body is so fragile that she can't withstand your ravaging." Yu continued to use her poisonous tongue. When Xiao Yichen heard this, he was extremely frightened. "That's right, Daddy. Don't roast it anymore. I don't want to eat your meat and be sent to the hospital to have my stomach pumped and my intestines pumped." Mu Yaja said, "Have you said enough?" Yu pursed her pink lips. "Are you angry from embarrassment?" Xiao Yichen said, "Yes, Daddy is angry from embarrassment." Yu said again, "Your culinary skills are negative, so don't destroy the innocent." "Yes, don't destroy the innocent. To avoid a tragedy, put down the weapon in your hand." "Yes, put down your weapon." Mu Yaja was completely speechless. He really did not know what to do with these two buffoons. He knitted his brows in displeasure, clearly disapproving. Was his cooking really anti-human? It was not that exaggerated. Muyaja was forced to step down. Yun Tianyu put on his apron and took his seat. Chapter 764. After a while, the barbecued meat gave off an aroma that seduced one's taste buds. Not a single detail was left out of his skillful hands. Even when it came to the seasoning process, Yun Tianyu was as strict as a textbook when it came to testing one's taste buds. The aroma of the meat, coupled with the seasoning, was fatally attractive. Muyaja watched his brother's skillful movements with his mouth agape. Xiao Yichen watched from the side, his mouth watering. He thought with satisfaction, with such a younger brother, I won't have to worry about going hungry in the future. He felt that this younger brother of his was a treasure. There was nothing he could not do. What a genius. Just as the three of them were studying the barbecue machine, Yun Shishir's call came from not far away. Yu, come quickly. The moment Yu heard Yun Shishir's voice, he dropped his stall and ran toward Yun Shishir. Mommy, I'm coming. I'll go too. Mu Yichen chased after him. Muyaja watched the two children's backs speechlessly as he silently scooped the food that Yu had barbecued onto a plate. Yun Shishir changed into a long bohemian dress and a sun hat as she walked barefoot to the beach. In the evening the tide was low and the cool, moist sea breeze blew. As she strolled on the beach, the soft sand flowed through her fingers. It was unbelievably comfortable. In the basket in her hand, she picked up many sea crabs, conches, and some beautiful shells. As the tide was low, she became interested and walked along the beach to pick up some shells. She was surprised to find that, other than the beautiful shells, she could also pick up a lot of sea gorillas. She could not help feeling curious. Yu followed closely behind her. When he saw a beautiful shell buried in the sand, he bent down to pick it up. On the other hand, Xiao Yichen was unlucky. He didn't see a single crab and the shells he picked up were all broken. He was a little dispirited. Mommy, I can't see any crabs. Where did you find them? Xiao Yichen asked curiously as he caught up with Yun Shishir. Yes, I picked it up at the beach. But don't go. Yun Shishir lowered her head and reminded him, when the tide is low and a wave hits, it's easy to be swept into the sea. Okay. Xiao Yichen nodded. All right. Yun Shishir's eyes were sharp. She found another sea crab stranded on the shore. There's another dish. I'll pick it up. Xiao Yichen immediately volunteered and bent down to pick it up. Yun Shishir said worriedly, Xiao Yichen, you have to be careful. Don't hurt your hand. The pincers of these sea crabs are very powerful. It's very painful to be pinched by them. Let me do it. Yun Shishir recalled a time when they went to a restaurant to eat. When they passed by the kitchen, a chef's hand was dripping with blood. A crab had pinched his finger and it had almost broken. Xiao Yichen was not afraid. Mommy, it's okay. Don't worry. The sea crab is so small. Also, I'll be very careful. After he said that, he bent down and carefully pinched the two ends of the sea crab's hard shell. He pinched it up and put it into the basket with a proud smile on his face. Awesome, right? Really awesome. Yun Shishir smiled and praised him. Xiao Yichen looked at Yun Shishir's beautiful and refined smile. For a moment he could not help but be mesmerized. He did not come back to his senses for a long time. Yun Shishir saw his dazed expression and touched her face in a daze. She thought that there was something strange on her face. Chapter 765. It's nothing. Xiao Yichen blushed and shook his head shyly. I just think that mommy looks good when she smiles. You're such a sweet talker. Yun Shishir couldn't help but pinch his cheeks gently. She suddenly turned her head and looked around. Where's Yu? He was right beside me just now. Little Yichen panicked as well as he looked around for traces of his father. In the end, Yun Shishir's eyes were sharp. It turned out that the little guy had run to the beach to pick up crabs. She called out helplessly, Yu, what are you doing? Yu crossed his arms and squatted by the beach. His watery eyes looked at the little crabs struggling in the sand as the waves receded. He couldn't help but feel amazed. He felt that this scene was really interesting. The little crabs were so small. They weren't even half the size of his palm. A wave came and splashed many of the little crabs onto the shore. When the wave receded, the wave swept many of the little crabs back into the waves and swallowed them back into the arms of the sea. So fun, so fun. Like Yun Shishir, it was his first time at the beach. Before this, he had never seen what the real sea looked like. In the evening, the sunset glow covered the horizon and stretched all the way to the sea, dyeing the vast sea into an incomparably gorgeous color. At this moment, the child's natural instincts were at its peak. He was always full of curiosity towards new things. He curled up into a ball and squatted by the beach. He stared at the little crabs that were struggling in the sand with their backs to the sky. From time to time he would kindly reach out and flip the poor little crabs over. The little crabs would follow their instincts and quickly crawl into the sea. Some of them burrowed into the sand. From afar they looked like little worms. Yun Shirshir couldn't bear to disturb his curiosity, but she was also extremely worried. When the tide was low, the waves were very powerful. Yu was so small. She was worried that he would be swept into the sea, so she shouted, "Yu, don't play by the beach. It's dangerous." What? Yu stood up. Just now, when the sea breeze blew, Yun Shirshir's voice was scattered in the sea breeze, so he didn't hear it clearly. "Come back. Not at the beach." "I know. I'll be right there." Yu replied as he stepped on the waves and walked towards Yun Shirshir. At this moment, a huge wave slammed against the rocks on the beach. Yu was alarmed by the huge sound of the huge wave. She couldn't help but look back and see that not far away, another wave was coming. His aura was astonishing. He quickened his pace. The waves rolled over, reaching a height of 5 feet. The huge wave hit his back and he immediately felt as if his back was pushed by a terrifying force. He staggered and fell forward. The sand on the beach was soaked with seawater. He slipped, lost his balance and fell to the ground. "Mommy?" Yun Shirshir turned her head abruptly and saw the boy falling into the waves. "Yu?" She screamed, threw the basket aside and ran toward him. Xiao Yichen also heard the commotion and looked in the direction of the sound. Seeing that Yu was in danger, he recklessly ran toward him. Another strong wave hit, and Yu was caught off guard and was swept into it. Chapter 766. Xiao Yichen also heard the commotion and looked in the direction of the sound. Seeing that Yu was in danger, he recklessly ran towards him. Another wave came crashing over, and Yu was caught off guard as he was swept into the waves. Yu was caught off guard by the sudden danger and gulped down a mouthful of seawater. His mouth was filled with bitterness. His entire body was flipped over by the waves. He didn't know how to swim, so he subconsciously flopped around in the water a few times. However, his body was sinking deeper and deeper. Seawater came from all directions and continuously entered his nostrils and ears. Yu tightly shut his eyes and mouth. The bitterness and sea gorilla taste in his mouth kept surging. He desperately paddled and tried his best to raise his head above the surface of the water. However, not long after, another wave came crashing over and he sank into the sea. He only felt that he was getting further and further away from the shore. Xiao Yichen quickly ran towards the place where Yu had disappeared. However, halfway there, Muyaja, who had arrived at some point, pushed him aside and shouted, "Go back." When he came back to his senses, Muyaja had already dove into the sea. Xiao Yichen was stunned. He wanted to swim and save his younger brother, but Yun Shirshir quickly ran to his side and carried him to the shore. "Mommy, what are you doing? Your daddy has already gone. Don't go. It's too dangerous." Yun Shirshir pretended to be calm and said, "Don't worry. Yu will be fine." After she finished speaking, she anxiously looked towards the place where Yu had disappeared. She felt extremely guilty. It was all her fault. It was all her fault. She was so focused on talking to Xiao Yichen that she didn't notice that Yu had run to such a dangerous place. He was so small. How dangerous would it be if a wave came crashing over? If something happened to Yu, she wouldn't be able to forgive herself. "Mommy, look, it's Daddy." Xiao Yichen suddenly cried out in surprise. Yun Shirshir looked in the direction he was pointing and saw Muyaja carrying Yu from the sea. He was drenched. Behind him, waves came crashing down on his back. If he was an ordinary person, he would have long been swept into the sea by the waves. However, he seemed to be motionless as he waded through the sea and walked to a safe area step by step. Yun Tianyu, in his arms, was already unconscious. Yun Shirshir and little Yichen hurriedly ran over. Muyaja leaned over and pressed his ear against the man's chest to listen. There was still a faint heartbeat. He checked the man's breathing. It was weak. Yun Shirshir and little Yichen stood at the side and watched nervously. "Daddy, how's little brother?" Muyaja could not be bothered with him. First, he placed Yu face down and kneed his abdomen to force the fluid out of his nose. Next, he carried Yu and helped him lie flat on his back. With his hands clasped together, he performed CPR on him. Muyaja pressed one hand on Yu's forehead and pressed it down. His other hand lifted the boy's chin and forced him to open his mouth. He then performed a few rounds of mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on him. Cough. Yu gradually regained consciousness. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Muyaja's handsome face in his hazy vision. He saw one hand pressing on his forehead and the other lifting his chin. When Yu opened his eyes, he saw his father's mouth on his. He screamed uncontrollably. His clear and loud voice almost shattered Muyaja's ears. Chapter 767. Yu Yu pushed Muyaja away harshly and retreated backward. He wiped his lips harshly with one hand as if there was something dirty on them. He wanted to cry but had no tears. That was his first kiss. It was actually snatched away by this man. Her small, wet face was filled with disdain. Muyaja was bewildered by the look of disdain on his face. Why was this little guy glaring at him with such a look? He saw Yu Yu sizing him up with a disgusted look as he wiped his lips harshly with his fingertips and spat a few times. Muyaja's lips twitched harshly. Did this little guy dislike the fact that her lips had touched his? Yun Shirshir and Xiao Yichen looked at each other in surprise when they saw that Yu Yu was safe and sound. However, Yu Yu stood up and threw himself into his mother's arms, feeling wronged. He wailed, "Woo woo woo. Mommy, he stole a kiss from me. He stole a kiss from me. Yu Yu is no longer pure." Yun Shirshir's expression froze. Xiao Yichen, who was standing at the side, was stunned as well. Muyaja in particular was rooted to the spot. Only Yun Chenyo's cries kept echoing in his ears. Daddy stole a kiss from me. Yu Yu is no longer pure. Daddy stole a kiss from me. Yu Yu is no longer pure. Xiao Yichen was the first to burst into laughter. Yu Yu heard his laughter and raised his head to glare at him. Idiot! What are you laughing at? Pfft! Yun Shirshir too could not hold back her laughter as she covered her mouth. Yu Yu looked deeply resentful. Mommy, why are you laughing too? Mommy isn't laughing. Yun Shirshir immediately straightened her face and pretended to be solemn. However, before she could finish her sentence, she broke into laughter. He turned his head with resentment and glared at Muyaja. With his hands on his waist, his childish face was full of disgust. Who told you to steal a kiss from me? Pervert. A certain man who was accused of being a pervert twitched his face. He opened his mouth wanting to explain something, but he did not know where to start. What, steal a kiss? That was artificial respiration, okay? Artificial respiration, okay? This little rascal must have never seen what artificial respiration was, so he mistakenly thought that he was secretly kissing him. Yu Yu pounced into Yun's arms. She covered her mouth and was already trembling with laughter. Mommy, what's wrong with you? Why are you laughing? Ha! Yun Shirshir could no longer hold it in after being asked such a naive question. She laughed out loud and held onto Yu Yu's abdomen, which was twitching because she was trying so hard to hold back her laughter. She hugged Yu Yu and laughed until they were a ball. Ha! Xiao Yichen, who was standing at the side, could no longer hold it in and laughed unbridled. What a silly little brother. What, steal a kiss? Daddy was clearly performing artificial respiration on him and saving him. He actually said that Daddy was a pervert who stole a kiss from him. Ah! Yu Yu was so angry that he pounced on Xiao Yichen. He held his face with both hands and ruthlessly ravaged it. Stop laughing. Stop laughing, idiot. Xiao Yichen still could not hold it in. Yu Yu was so angry that he balled his little hands into fists and pounded on his chest. In Yun Shirshir's eyes, this action looked a little bashful. Xiao Yichen saw that Yu Yu was angry and wanted to tease him as well. His hands tickled his armpits. Yu Yu was more sensitive. Sometimes when Yun Shirshir was in the mood, she would tickle him. He could not stand it. Chapter 768. Yu Yu, who had a cold expression on his face, couldn't stop laughing under Xiao Yichen's tickling. Ha! Yu Yu's melodious laughter drifted along with the sea breeze. The two little kids rolled around on the beach. Yu Yu couldn't take it anymore and finally begged for mercy. Brother, don't. Ah! It's so ticklish, don't. Ha ha! Xiao Yichen felt that Yu Yu was too cute when he laughed. He was much cuter than when he had a cold expression on his face. He thought about how Yu Yu usually had a cold expression on his face and then looked at the little guy who was tearing up from laughing while he was tickling him. It was obvious that the latter was cuter. He really liked this little brother of his. Yu Yu was laughing so hard that he couldn't take it anymore. He kept pushing Xiao Yichen's body, but at this moment, it was as if all the strength in his hands had been sucked away. After playing around for a while, Xiao Yichen grasped all the sensitive spots on Yu Yu's body. Yu Yu was very ticklish. The soles of his feet, his armpits, his waist, his ears, he was extremely sensitive when he touched them. His little brother was really a delicate flower. Muyaja looked at the two little kids playing around and his thin lips couldn't help but curve upwards. This was probably the kind of happiness that he could imagine. He had a woman he loved deeply and two adorable little kids by his side. They formed a happy family. Every single person was precious and indispensable. Whether it was Shirshir, Yu Yu, or Xiao Yichen, none of them could be missing. Yun Shirshir stood at the side and looked at the two little kids playing around on the beach. A gratified smile appeared on her face. She looked up and suddenly met Mu Yaja's deep gaze. The two of them looked at each other for a long time and suddenly smiled knowingly. During dinner, Yu finally understood Mu Yaja's actions from Yun Shishir. It turned out that he had fainted after he was washed into the sea. If Mu Yaja hadn't saved him in time, it would have been called mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? Yu held a knife and fork in his hands and looked at Yun Shishir strangely with his bright eyes. He didn't understand this term. What's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? It's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Yun explained it to him in detail. Yu nodded his head with a look of contemplation. It turned out that not all mouth-to-mouth resuscitation was kissing. But he still felt disgusted. He could accept it if his mother gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. But he couldn't. Little Ichin thought of something and asked curiously, "Did Daddy give Mommy mouth-to-mouth resuscitation too?" This little bun obviously wouldn't give up until he said something shocking. Yun Shishir's face immediately turned red. Xiao Yichin's curiosity was piqued and he wanted to know more. He obviously wanted to get to the bottom of it. "I saw it today. Daddy did mouth-to-mouth resuscitation for Mommy. Is that right, Mommy? Is that called mouth-to-mouth resuscitation?" "That's not mouth-to-mouth resuscitation." Yu snorted. "Daddy and Mommy were kissing. It was a kiss that only couples could kiss." "What's that?" Xiao Yichin looked at her